All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day two. Let's just give everybody a couple seconds to get settled into the session. So for all of you that are just tuning in and that perhaps missed day one, this is day two of our two-day wall event for 2025. So the Worlds of Learning run by LearnWorlds. I'm going to very briefly just show you the agenda for today before we're ready to jump on to our to a session. Before I do that, keep in mind we'll have 7 sessions around 25 minutes each with a 5-minute break wherever is possible, just so you can take some time to refill your drinks or just have a small little break. You may see a few question pause at some part in your screen. Feel free to answer that. It just helps us get to know our audience a little bit better. All right, so let me also introduce myself. Hello again, my name is Elisa and I am a learning designer over here at LearnWorlds. All right, let's not waste any time. You will find a chat section and a Q&A section, both somewhere below your screen. Feel free to use those. If you have any questions, go to the Q&A. If you have anything to share, feel free to interact in the chat. Let us know where you're signing in from. That's always nice to see where everyone is coming from. All right, and I'll go ahead with the agenda for today. So like I said, 7 sessions. The first one is regarding AI regulations. I love to hear about this. So whether you're in the EU, the US, or anywhere in the world, a very interesting session. Moving on, we're going to go to learn about using buyer psychology to sell learning at the right price. The third session is about adopting new monetization models for today's market, a very interesting one too. Then we have Brandon, and he's going to show us how to build and sustain a 1.2 million strong learning community. That's very impressive. Moving on, we'll have Margarita and Maddie on scaling content workflows with AI, from quick wins to systems that actually work. Then you'll see a session by our CPO, George, and myself, where we're going to talk a little bit more about powering your learning business with the LearnWorlds platform. So we're going to introduce the LearnWorlds platform. And then the final session is what drives testing business success with Panos Iosos, our CEO, and Panos Papadopoulos. So a very, very interesting session and way to wrap up the WOL Summit. All right, so this is roughly the agenda for today, and let me go straight over to our first session for the day. So AI regulations in e-learning by Vasya Pikru, our head lead counsel over here at LearnWorlds, and Eugene Chang. He's a partner in intellectual property, Will Kifar and Collinger LLP. So hello, guys. Hope you can both hear me and see me.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, we can hear you. We can see the slides.
That's great.
So welcome everyone to our session, AI regulation in e-learning, compliance trends you cannot afford to miss. So what we're going to do today? Today, we will explore how AI rules in Europe and the US are shaping what's possible in education, and how you can safely incorporate AI tools in your work every day. So by the end of this session, you will know your key obligations, so what you need to incorporate in your learning business and how to stay ahead. So why this session should matter to you? Well, if you're a content creator, if you're a school owner, if you offer training courses, then you need to understand that AI is massively transforming education already from content creation, but it has moved further to tutoring and to grading. So the regulatory framework being built right now will define how you can use AI systems and tools safely and responsibly. So what's at stake here is more than just compliance with laws. It's not another tick in your compliance checkbox. In this case, compliance will help you create trust and gain trust from your customers. And if you have your customers' trust, then most certainly you will have a definite competitive advantage. So let's move on to the next slide. Let's see briefly the agenda. We will begin first with Europe and the EU AI Act, then turn to the US, with Eugene Chang, who is a partner in the intellectual property department of Wilkie Farr & Gallagher, a major international law firm. So he brings a lot of experience today on that field. And close with common ground, differences, and most importantly, practical steps you can take with you today. Moving forward. So let's see a bit more clearly what is the EU AI Act. It is the world's first comprehensive AI law, and how the important thing is to understand how it is structured. So it divides AI systems and tools with a risk-based approach into three categories: the minimal, the high, and the prohibited. And one of the most important criteria that it uses to put an AI systems into one of those three categories is how impactful is the AI system to fundamental human rights. And when we say fundamental human rights, we're talking about access to jobs, access to education, freedom of speech, privacy, among others. So as you can understand, education falls right into the high risk category. So specific obligations already apply to both providers and deployers. When we say deployers, we mean platforms like LearnWorlds, and we mean school owners, learning businesses like yours. So what this means that we all fall into the higher risk obligations. This means that we will be closely monitored by EU bodies, both on a national, but on an EU central level. The fact that we're talking about an act and not a directive means that there will be no transposition into national laws. The provisions of the Act directly apply to all 27 member states. We will not have a patchwork of laws and provisions. We will only have differences in how the states will decide to apply those provisions. Okay, so let's move into a more practical aspect of the EU AI Act, current obligations. Let's dive now into the most important current obligations that you need to adhere to under the AI Act. Transparency. If you do some prompting, but in reality, AI produces the majority of your content, or grades your students, or provides respective feedback to your students, then this means that you will absolutely need to disclose such usage transparently, in a more transparent and evident way. You will need to use a tag or use something that is very evident, very easy for your students to understand. At the same time, you will need to ensure that human oversight is present in your work, and ensure that bias is kept out of your content. As you and the provider of the AI system will remain accountable. So if there is a damage, if a damage takes place to your student, this means that you could be held accountable apart from the provider of the AI system, for example, OpenAI. Data governance and the GDPR enters into the equation and is present as well. So this means that when you provide questionnaires, when you provide tests to your customers and your students, you need to ensure protection of their personal data, and you need to ensure that you have obtained the necessary consent before you process their data via and with the use of an AI system. And you need to be careful when you use a generative AI tool. You need to understand that if you have not produced content solely with human labor or with the use of AI, but merely as a tool, this means that you do not have any copyright protection. If you are comfortable with that, then that's fine. And last but not least, you need to ensure accuracy of the output, and prompting should be fact-check and ensure that it is accurate. But just a clarification at this point, the Act does not obligate you to manually check every single one output, every single grade, but it requires you to create an oversight design, and it requires you to do a frequent bias check. at least. So let's move on to the next slide and see some future obligations that will wait for AI providers and deployers. So there will be certification schemes from 2027 going forward that will be mandatory for high-risk AI providers. As mentioned in the previous slides, liability rules will expand, holding providers and deployers accountable for harm to the end customers. Generative AI disclosures will become stricter, and you'll need to double check your copyright and labeling requirements before posting any of your work in your learning business. Monitoring and reporting, just like the GDPR, will be ongoing obligations for education providers. So you will need to create logs. You will need to be able to prove that consent has been taken. And it is very interesting. I have included in this slide some updates from this from developments from this summer. We have the creation of a voluntary generative AI code of conduct that 26 of the biggest companies in the world has adopted, and essentially is an adoption of the provisions of the EU AI Act. And this signifies the gravity that this law puts on all AI systems and all providers and deployers. So now let's proceed and take a look at the US landscape. Eugene, over to you.
Hi, everyone.
And
Thank you to LearnWorlds for having me on.
Of course.
So I'm going to start with the thing that everybody hates from lawyers, which is the disclaimer. Unfortunately, in the US, right now, the AI landscape is a patchwork. There is no central unifying act the way there is in the US, in the EU. Instead, different bodies have issued and taken different actions. And exactly where we're going to end up, we don't quite know yet. That said, I think that we can leave you with some good themes. And a lot of what Vasya explained for the EU will also apply to the US because the dangers are the same. When you're using AI, what people are really concerned about is that the results of what will come out will be potentially harmful in some way if there are no rules and regulations. So let me start with executive orders. As you probably know, the changeover from the Biden administration to the Trump administration has reset a lot of things. The Biden administration had spent 4 years setting up AI policies and regulations through the various executive agencies. The Trump administration essentially overrode the Biden executive order with its own, but it did not throw away all the work that had been done. And so there's a lot of text here. Essentially, the description that you can read, and I'm happy to answer questions on after this, is the Trump administration is actually more bullish on AI than the Biden administration. And the idea is that that likely there will be less regulation but more focus on policies that encourage the use of AI in a safe and effective way. So let's move on to the next slide. In the US, there is the executive branch and the legislative branch. So there is the president and the executive branch. And underneath the executive branch, there are a number of executive agencies like the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, the SEC. There's also other executive agencies, many of which have made pronouncements along the way as to how AI should be regulated, coming at it from different perspectives. I'm not going to bore you with the exact statements that have been made by each of the executive agencies, but they have led with the the very similar principles to what Vasya mentioned: transparency, explainability, whether the use is fair and non-discriminatory, and whether the people that are using it are going to be held accountable for the overall results. Now, in addition to the executive branch, if we move to the next slide, we also have the legislative branch, Congress and the states. Congress has had bills submitted, but has not passed anything that actually governs AI. Different states, and almost every state at this point, except for Texas, have AI acts running through their legislative process. Utah, Colorado, and California have actually adopted AI statutes. And the Colorado one act specifies that education is a consequential act and feature that would be regulated. So my expectation, and this is looking forward into the future, is that as each of the states adopt slightly different AI-focused laws, education will be one of the areas in which those laws will be those laws will govern. But the principles that underlie these are still the same. There will also be, I'm sure, discussion about a federal AI Act. There isn't one that is leading the charge right now. There's enough other issues, including avoiding a federal government shutdown within the next couple months. But I do think that we'll get there. When a federal law gets enacted, that might trump and preempt certain aspects of the state laws, but we'll address that as it goes. If we go to the next slide, what I've said to you is it probably makes your head spin, because what do we follow in the U.S.? There is no defined rule. The best practice right now, though, is to build a system that follows the principles that we've been talking about, and that solution will be, I expect, 90% there in following any regulation that's adopted. And that starts from the principles of transparency and disclosure to end users of where you're using AI, that there should be some level of human review, not at the answer by answer level, but it can't be just automatically an AI gets to run with everything. There has to be a human review and explainable at the level in which you are implementing your human review. And there has to be an attempt to have it implemented in a fair and non-discriminatory way. The best practices that Vasya mentioned for the EU generally apply in the US too. You want to document the way that you're doing your analysis and development of AI. You want to allow consumer control over their data and let them know how the data is being used and what they can do if an AI decision leads to something that is a negative consequence. And here, the states really are focusing on what is created by AI, as opposed to the what is being said, which would trigger First Amendment issues. With that, I know that that was very dense. Lawyers tend to talk this way. I apologize, but let me hand it back to Vasya, and happy to answer questions at the end of this.
So Eugene, to be honest, I had the exact same problem, that there is a lot of information. It's very dense, and we're talking about very specific compliance obligations that each and every one of them can become a session of their own. So to sum everything that we have discussed so far, and from what I've heard, both the EU and US share same core principles: transparency, fairness, accountability, the need for human oversight, but not to an extent that it is an overlap and a step-by-step reproduction of the work that the AI has already done. But we're witnessing some key differences. So far, the EU is more preventive and centralized, while the US, at least for now, is more fragmented and more litigation driven. So you derive your results from jurisprudence and you move forward. So as I have seen from the Q&A section, one has pointed very correctly that it's an obligation, not only a legal obligation, but an ethical one. It's not just a legal exercise. It's about building trustworthy, safe learning environments and offering it to customers. So institutions and learning businesses that can early adopt and stay compliant also give to themselves a competitive advantage and a competitive edge in the market. And let's move to the last slide, some actionable steps that you can take with you and you can start implementing from tomorrow if you're not already doing it. So you will definitely need to label your AI especially in grading and major student decisions, such as providing certificates. It is advisable to audit your vendors and see how they stay compliant and review their policies. And at the same time, you will absolutely need to start drafting your internal AI policies that will apply both to your staff and your learners. You will need, as Eugene said, you will need to document, you will need to have a log of your AI usage and do risk assessments based on those logs and conduct frequent bias checks. If you are a provider, even if you're a deployer, you will need to prepare for the certifications era after 2027 in Europe. If you're a deployer, you will need to be ready to ask it from your providers. So that's it from us. Thank you so much for listening. It was indeed very, very dense, but we hope that we have covered some significant obligations that all learning businesses already have.
Mhm. Thank you to both of you. We do have like a couple of minutes if you guys want to take on a question or two.
Yeah, sure.
Shall we do that? All right, I have saved a few, so I'll just, say the question and whichever one wants to pick it up. So we have one from Russell, and they're saying, when there are not yet agreed upon standards of use for AI, and many countries have already said they will not abide by them anyway, isn't the responsibility for our ethical grounding ours?
So I can
Go ahead,
start,
Eugene, go
Vasya,
ahead.
and
No,
please add. So I think particularly with AI as a principled matter, the user of AI is always going to be the one that is morally responsible for how that content and how that use is going to affect your users, regardless of whether regardless of whose legislation applies and regardless of what regulations apply. The regulations only really sit on top of that to make sure that for actors that don't have their own moral compass, there is some minimum standard that each jurisdiction has decided should apply, especially where with AI there is this problem that even the experts, when they're looking at AI model systems, explain that a lot of times they don't know exactly how the AI is making the decision that it's making. There's a probabilistic model underlying each AI platform that comes to its creations in slightly different ways. And they're not always 100% predictable, which is why the human oversight, the transparency, and these other principles do apply. I guess I'll just add as a separate matter, if you're using these models, you do also want to be careful what you let a third-party AI platform train on. If you have proprietary data yourself and you are uploading that, if you are doing it generally to ChatGPT, ChatGPT is actually training off of that data and incorporating that within, and it may, in the right or wrong circumstances, become available to other users, including your competitors. Each of the generative AI platforms has specific enterprise versions that they can allow you to use, in which they specify that they will not train off of your data. And so you should just be aware of when your data can be used to train and when it is not being used to train.
All right, thank you for that. There's quite a few questions. Unfortunately, we don't have the time for all of that. So we will share both Eugene's and Vasia's LinkedIn if you guys want to reach out with your questions that we didn't have time to. I guess a last one, which is a little bit more generic. So they're asking if there is a resource that they can follow, a specific one, to keep in touch with the AI legislation trends. So if someone wants to keep up, is there a specific place they could go in to stay up to date, essentially?
The official EU AI Act website indeed contains all those obligations, but unfortunately, from my experience, it's not in the most easy to use and easy to understand way. But all developments will be published there. You will be able to find them there. At the same time, what we are doing and what we will be doing after this session is gather questions and create an article out of them. So we can help some of the learning businesses that watch us right now have more specific guideline on how to act from now on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you to both of you, Vasia and Eugene, for sharing your knowledge and an insight to this.
Thank you so much, Eugene, for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, you guys. So we're going to head over to a very, very short break, like 2 to 3 minutes, and then we're going to move on with our next session. So take a little break and we'll be right back. All right. So if you're hearing my voice, this is your cue to come back from the little break. I did also share 2 poll questions, so still I'll leave this one up for a little bit more. And we are ready to move on to our next session right here. All right, let me just close this poll. All right, so on to another very interesting session. So, well, that is a little bit about psychology. So, pricing isn't just number, but it's actually psychology. So, whether you're an independent creator or maybe a part of a corporate learning and development department, then right here in this session, you'll learn how behavioral economics shapes the buying decisions and how to position your offer for maximum value. So, let's hear it from Elise. She is our VP of Customer Experience over here at LearnWorlds. And Elise, if you care to introduce the rest of the speakers for this session.
Thank you, Elisa. Very happy to. Hello, everyone. Lovely to have you all today. So yes, we are about to dive into the fascinating world of buyer psychology, and not just in theory. We have a short time here, but we really want to try to make sure we're nailing some practical ways that you can apply changes directly to your business today. So we are fortunate to have three extraordinary experts with us, and each of them brings a unique lens on how value pricing and behavior intersect. So we've got Melina Palmer, an applied behavioral economist, best-selling author, and CEO of The Brainy Business. Melina works with global brands and high-growth startups to uncover the hidden psychology of why people say yes. Hey, Melina. We also have Justin Neal, who is an expert pricing strategist and founder of Value Alchemists. Justin helps businesses escape the trap of competing on price and instead command the premiums they deserve. Hey, Justin. And then we also have George Elosaiz. He's the founder and CEO of Trainwell, the first AI-powered sales training platform for insurance professionals. George is rethinking sales itself, showing how agents and teams can compete on value rather than commoditized price. Very important stuff. So we're going to dive in with a couple questions for each of them. And like I said, we want you to all walk away with two things in particular. One is practical, actionable tips that you can put into play immediately. And the second is a spark of curiosity to dig deeper into this powerful field, since you're going to see pretty immediately how exciting and interesting it is. So let's dive in. Melina, you are up first. So stepping all the way back, taking a look at the big picture of buyer psychology, you have a framework to help us understand that it's often not about the product itself, but how it's presented that drives the decision to buy. From your work in behavioral economics, what does that tell us about why people buy? And could you share an example that brings this principle to life for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here and to share this. So in my book, The Truth About Pricing, I have a framework that is called It's Not About the Cookie. So let's kind of break down what happens there. If you imagine that you and I are walking down the street, we're having an amazing conversation, catching up, it's been a while. And then all of a sudden, there's this wonderful scent that comes down the street toward us. And we're still talking to each other, but we get a little bit distracted, right? It's like sweet and a little salty, hint of chocolate. We realize there are delicious cookies baking nearby, right? So now we're distracted. We're like cartoon characters with our noses pulling us down the road. We get in front of a bakery, we see there's a line out front, and we find ourselves in the line. And then they come up and they give us a free sample and say, today only, buy three, get one free. Before we know it, we walk out of there each eating a cookie with a bag with an undisclosed number for later, right? So that's scenario one. We'll rewind now, same street, same conversation. We're walking down. Some person comes up puts a coupon in our face and says, hey, today only, if you buy 4 cookies, you only pay for 3 of them. I've got samples. Like, ugh, right? Hate that guy. Don't want to talk to him. Now we're just talking about bad sales experiences. We get in front of the store. We see the line there and we're kind of judging them for having bad standards. And by the time we smell the cookies, we use that to write a review about how much we hate them. We'd never buy from this brand. So the important thing to note is could have been exactly the same cookies in both scenarios, right? And in the first one, we're almost definitely buying. The second one, we're almost definitely not. It also didn't have anything to do with the price, right? They could have been $3 each in the first one and only 50 cents in the second, and it would have changed our perspective of whether or not we're going to buy. So knowing that how you present the information and all the things that happen before people get to the price is much more impactful on whether or not they're going to buy based on that experience. And that It's Not About the Cookie framework has, 6 key concepts from behavioral economics that go into it. I can't share them all now, but really how you say it and what happens first matters so much more than the product or the price itself.
I love that. And I see from the chat that you're making our audience hungry
I know,
for
I'm sorry. But that goes to show the power of priming on the brain, right? That you can't stop thinking about cookies now because I talked about it.
point made. Very strong point made. Thanks so much, Melina. Justin, we're going to go over to you. You come from big corporate enterprise world, and I'd love for you to translate down a key principle for us. So, in dealing in the enterprise space, we see that the conversation with pricing often shifts from cost plus to value based, or in other words, it's about charging for outcomes, not inputs. So, how might we be able to apply that principle, using cookies or not, to help enterprise small scale learning providers increase profitability?
Thanks. So the enterprise customers, they're not looking to buy your training course. They're looking for you to solve a problem for them or to give them an outcome that they need. If they've just invested in a huge piece of software, actually they want some training that's going to help them either implement it faster or make more effective use of it. There's a monetary outcome they're looking for. They've made a huge investment and they want to be able to leverage that investment sooner. And it's the same with compliance or development training. Actually, it's not so much about the training course itself, it's about the result that you will deliver. So getting under the skin of what that customer really wants out of it, which is not to buy your training course, they're looking to reduce their risk or lower staff attrition. That has a very tangible monetary value, which means you don't sell your training at a cost per head, per student. You actually think about what's this value to the organization and you price accordingly. So you move really to value-based pricing, but you have to understand what the problem is that you're solving and the outcome that customer really wants.
That is a fantastic way to frame up value and start thinking about how we're getting to a number differently. Which brings me to you, George. With your platform, Trainwell, you're on a mission to decommoditize sales training and to sell learning in a market where there are plenty of cheaper options for your clients to seek information that isn't your platform. Can you talk a bit about why this is your mission to decommoditize sales training and how you've approached making your own program stand out in such a crowded market and still command higher prices?
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a really simple guy. I'm just a sales guy, and I've sold a lot of stuff. Like my first sales job, I was 16 and I was earning commission selling TVs, and I sold vacuums, I've sold eyeglasses. The most recent sales endeavor was insurance, and now I'm, getting into selling courses. But basically, it didn't matter what I was selling. People always wanted to compare, and by comparing, it would help them feel like it was easier to make a decision, right?
Mhm.
And especially when I got into insurance, that's something that's all the advertising has really commoditized insurance, for example, like car insurance, home insurance. And most advertising out there is discount this, 15 minutes can save you 15%. And that makes people think just because the coverages look the same, right? Or just because it's auto insurance or just because it's home insurance, I'll just go with the cheaper option and it's all the same.
Mm.
When if you peel that back, it's obviously going to look a lot different. So whenever I'm thinking about selling anything and how I'm going to approach it, what I always do is look at what everybody else is doing. So for insurance, all the advertising, all the other companies, and even other agents in my space, we're really focused on savings and discounts, which kind of ignores the fact that when you're having that really bad day, insurance is that second call that rebuilds your home, gives a check to your family, or you name it. So what I started doing with my sales process in insurance was I wouldn't talk about savings, I wouldn't talk about discounts, I would only talk about those pain points. And I would always have a plan every time I spoke to someone. Hey, if you cause an accident, this is what we'll do. If your home burns down, this is what we'll do. If you pass away, we'll make sure your family has enough money. If you get sick or hurt, we'll make sure you have enough money coming in. And I always made sure every single conversation would include those four things. And it was always to solve as many problems at once, all at once, right? So where most insurance situations, they start looking, by car insurance, or I want to save money on my car insurance, maybe I'll look at my home. I would take that and turn it into the all four and go, okay, well, yes, you're paying $100 a month for your car insurance, but for $300 a month, we're doing all these other things, right? We're covering the home or life insurance, you name it, which kind of made it a lot easier just to sell in really any rate environment.
Mm.
And to sort of like teach people that, right? And also like sell my training, I kind of went through a similar process with which I was like, who is selling like insurance sales training? What are they doing? And I just started undoing all of it to seem different. So instead of a library of Zoom calls, like long Zoom calls with someone talking, I opted in for a structured library of short videos, like 30 seconds, 4 minutes, that were professionally produced. Or where like most of them were against scripts, I made sure to include scripts. And I just really did all that and made it like a certain structure to appear different. Because at the end of the day, people do want to compare, but if you make it something they can't compare,
Mm.
you can pick the price. And it's a lot easier to sell them because if they're not comparing options anymore.
I love that. You're kind of setting your own standard by which to be judged rather than allow yourself to be blended into the existing standards. It's
Right.
really important. Really, really interesting. And a lot of interesting little tidbits on establishing, how to approach and where to identify that value and distinction. Thank you, George. We're going to go right around round two in the same order for you each, and dig a little bit deeper in triangulating into pricing. So, Melina, back over to you. From what we're discussing, it's evident that pricing often comes down to aligning what buyers think is valuable with what the sellers want or need to earn. What's one mistake you see people make in that alignment, and how should they approach it instead?
Yeah, a key mistake that people make is thinking that what you would pay for the thing you've created is what someone else will pay for it. Because if you can create it yourself, you don't need the thing that you're selling, right? So being able to understand that what you would pay for it is not where someone else would value it is a key thing to do first, where you can say it's going to free up a lot of their time and they charge $500 an hour for something, right? You can see there's a lot of value that comes in that versus like, well, I mean, if I had to do this marketing stuff or this AI stuff comes easy to me, right? Like you don't need the thing. So don't think about you, think about them and what they're going to care about. And then you can frame and position it in a way that's going to draw them into that. The one other just quick thing I would say that I see constantly is kind of tying back to what George was just saying, that in the way that we think we should present options, it feels natural to us to say start low and work our way up to the most expensive thing. But our brains anchor on numbers and prices, especially. And so if you say, hey, we've got this, $5 a month option if you need that. But there's also, you can buy a full $500 course, or you could do $5,000 with me. Like, well, let me tell you, nobody's paying 5,000. Maybe someone pays 500, but people are anchored on that $5 option, right? And so it feels like nobody's going to buy, nobody will ever get the thing I'm selling, and they never choose it. And it might not be that that $500 thing is a bad value. You just positioned it wrong. If instead you say, hey, I do this full like hand holding session and I'm going to dig in deep with you for $5,000. We also have just a $500 option. And that's a really great thing for most people. We're herding species. So knowing what most people do feels good. How does that feel for you? Which one would you like to move forward with? I'll always end on that asking to close, right? 500 feels way easier when we started at 5,000. And if someone says, I can't even do that, then you can say, well, we do have a $5 a month option for this group, if you want to check that out too, until you're ready to join the great, amazing people that pay $500 for the thing, right?
Yeah, super smart positioning again. This is a perfect tee up to my question for you, Justin. In case anyone in our audience is panicking that they've already anchored a little bit low. So if anyone's thinking I've anchored with a low price already today, and they're worried about these, the 500, the 5,000, creating these more higher tiered, more expensive options. And they're worried that that would scare people off entirely. So they find themselves, instead of raising prices, they're almost racing to the bottom with their pricing to stay competitive. So from your experience, how could somebody raise prices with confidence while maintaining or even boosting conversion? Because this is your sweet spot.
Very true. Don't compete on price. I mean, you do end up attracting the worst customers, and you'll often end up scaring away the best customers. So let's say you've got a problem. You're in pain, you go to a chemist, and there's a shelf full of painkillers. You've got the shop own brand generic painkillers for 30 cents. And then you've got the premium brand, which is 10 times the price, $3 or $4. But you're in pain and you want something that's going to deliver the result, which is to get rid of that pain for you. You're not going to take a risk by buying the cheap option. Now, the reality is they are probably exactly the same ingredients. They're going to do the same thing, but your perception is, I actually need a result. I want it quickly. I'm not going to take the risk of buying the cheapest solution. When you start positioning your products at the premium end, there is a perception when people go to buy that product or that service is going to give them a better result. And interestingly, and there's lots of studies that prove this, they will actually get a better result from it the more they pay, because their expectation is that it's going to be better, and they actually make it better. They'll work more closely with you, and they will make it work. And if you race to the bottom, you'll just attract those people that only care about price, and they are the worst customers to work with.
I love that, creating a little bit of the buy-in as well, for that commitment to work with you. That's a great perspective, very helpful. Maybe you've assuaged some panic in the room. And George, I've got one more for you, coming back around. For course sellers facing crowded niches, it is easy to feel like just another option. Based on your own experience with Trainwell, what is one practical way that someone can position, package, or sell their courses to stand out without lowering price from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, one big thing that, I was doing a lot of research on before I started Trainwell, and one thing that's really shaped what Trainwell is today is, instead of like shooting for like just selling single courses, you should take whatever course you have or courses you have and turn them into like a membership site. So like I use like the membership site features of LearnWorlds, because one thing that I like learned early on in my research was, if you have that membership site and you have a community, well, people will come for the content, but they'll stay for the community, because then they'll talk and interact and meet other people that they like, and that will make them want to stick around and continue paying you. The other big thing that I think every single person feels, and I don't think there is a really good solution to this yet, especially when you have recorded content, it's that it was recorded in the past. So therefore, how relevant is it to me today? And if you are getting a consistent, drip of money from each of your members, and you have some sort of lifetime value you can keep track of, well, now it's easier to include Ask Me Anything calls, weekly calls. Something I do is it's called like a member makeover, where like an insurance agent will volunteer. I help them solve a problem, and then I basically go live every week and say like how we solve the problem, right? So I basically like pick a member and show them, which also that turned into people asking me for private coaching. So now I charge a lot of money for private coaching, and I'm like totally booked up because of it. But it's just because I already had that community to pull from. They will tell you when they want more, they will ask you for more, and they have a space to talk about what they like and what they don't like. So take whatever you have, turn it into a membership model, and add some more live things just to keep it all relevant, and sort of like practice the content too. So that's what I would say.
Super nice. Yeah, really, really interesting. And it's such a good point. We're innovating so quickly that to reinforce that this is still relevant new content, and that there's a living kind of community behind it, is a really smart option. I love that. We did so well on time, panelists. I'm very proud
You
of you.
did.
We did, didn't we? We can do one little rapid fire question, or we can do Q&A. Elisa, what would you suggest?
Yes, so there are a few questions actually from the
Okay.
audience. So hold on, let me see those for you. All right, so the first one is our organization has dedicated membership who have been with us for years, sometimes even decades. The hurdle we're trying to get past is that they have been used they have been used to free live events training for a long time. How can we now reframe that to explain that a robust course or suite of courses that we are building on LearnWorlds adds a new and additional value and is actually worth paying? So essentially, they were used to free content, and now we have to somehow rephrase that and change it to a paid course instead. So to any of you who want to pick up the question.
I can go quickly. Something fear of raising prices is a real common one, and many people shy away from it. People are less price sensitive than you think. The people that value your content will pay a price. It's getting the right price, but the key is the communication. Demonstrate the value. Why is it that you're going to charge? And it's all about the additional value that you'll be bringing them. Some people will drop out of that community, but the ones that stay are the ones that actually really value it. And I would just not be afraid of actually putting that price in place. And I think you will actually find people will engage more with that community because they're paying something for it.
And I feel like paying also gives you a sense of accountability, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, you will continue because but you'll also have the investment to develop more content,
exactly.
more resources, and yeah, absolutely, someone's paying you for it. So you're going to want to do a better job for them.
And
If I
to
could
add to
lean in
that
on that.
too,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
after you, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I was going to say, one, you can really lean into scarcity as an option. So if you wanted to say that you have this for a limited number of spots or people, where like George was saying, something with private consulting or things that layer on top of a course to help showcase. And I always tell people to create a wingman for the thing that you really want to sell. If we lean back into anchoring, right? So if you're wanting to be selling, like right now you're doing the free or a $5 thing, don't try to like say, well, now the stuff you've been getting, instead of getting it for free, you get to pay us money for it. Hooray, right? Like that's not going to go over very well. But if instead you layer in and say, what's the new thing we're able to provide that's on top of this, right? So maybe if you were going to have your course available for people who aren't a part of your membership, I'm just going to use the $500 number again, because that's what I was saying is $500. But because you're already a member, even though it's a free community, you can get it for just $400 to be able to get this thing, because you get this special discount because you've been with us for such a long time, or you get exclusive access, or there's something extra that you get on top of whatever that happens to be, and helping to look at it in this new way. And if you want to sell the $500 thing, again, if you make or you can pay $2,500 a month and get calls with me or something, right? And you don't necessarily want to sell that thing. You'd be delighted if anybody bought it, but its job as the wingman is to help the $500 offer look like a really great one, and help repurpose and shift that whole conversation.
And to sort of like kind of expand on like both of those points too, there's just like, depending on like the structure of that membership site and really what you're really trying to accomplish with it, like there's a couple of just like really little things that come to mind. Like if there are any updates, like ongoing updates to anything, paid people get them first, right? That it could just be as simple as that. Or it could be some sort of, to Justin's point, like people are buying this to solve a problem. Well, paid people can have a guarantee where if they do XYZ, they join the paid membership, they do XYZ, and then they don't get the result, they get their money back or something, right? Or you could niche down further. So if you had a general time management community, for example, just like, here's some things you can do for better time management, but then you charge for time management for salespeople, or you charge even a little bit more for time management for insurance salespeople, that gives you another opportunity to niche down and then also charge more accordingly. Because the more it feels like it's made for them, the more likely they are to pay. And then the last thing I would say is odds are in that free community, there's something that people are still asking for. Like, I bet if you look hard enough, they're asking for something, and that's the thing you could charge for, and it'd be the most natural thing to charge for as well. So those are a couple little tactical things. Hopefully at least one of those would be helpful, but
I love all of those. And just to close on this piece, one of the main things is, again, don't make it about you and be like, hey, we've done this for free for so long and we just can't do it anymore. Please help and pay us money. Like that never, ever, ever goes over well. So again, think about what they value, what we've already been talking about today. Great ideas from George and Justin, and the way you can reframe that to be about them. And it makes it much easier for people to want to buy and actually feel excited about paying you money.
That's true. All right, you guys, I think I would go on to another question, but I feel like we are right on time to pause for our break. So thank you all a lot, Elise, Melina, Justin, George. Thank you a lot for your insight. And you guys, if you have any more questions that we didn't have the time to address, you can find all of them in LinkedIn, and feel free to, I guess, reach out over there. So thanks a lot, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks.
joining. And let's move on to, again, a short break. It's going to be a 5-minute break, and then we're going to head over to our next session for the day. All right, so I hope you are back. And we are almost ready to move over to our next session for the day. That is going to be session number 3. And I feel like someone mentioned something regarding that on the chat earlier about B2B and B2C. So this next section brings exactly that. So B2B and B2C founders and experts together as they explore the most effective models in today's market, from memberships to licensing, so you can find what fits for your audience and your business best. So with that in mind, help me introduce Angela Bush. Hello, Angela, founder and CEO at EEC Learning Unlimited. Hi, Angela. Also, Jeremy Wall, CEO and co-founder at Goalmakers. Hi, Jeremy.
Hello, everyone.
Of course, also our very own Brett Hamilton, customer success lead over here at LearnWorlds, as well as Vitoriana Kozia, customer success lead over here at LearnWorlds. So hello, everyone, and let's go ahead and kick off this session.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eliza. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm still thinking about those cookies. But our first model today is one that you will probably see a lot. Actually, it's a very common and familiar model, and that is the one-off sale purchase, right? The one-time purchase model. In fact, I'd say probably now about 80% of LearnWorld's customers have used this model at some point. And with about half those customers actually reporting that they had a 25% uptick in revenue. So it is common, yet it is an effective model. So how does it work? Well, it's a one-time charge for either limited or unlimited access to things like courses, bundles, or other learning content that your school offers. And it has a lot of benefits, right? It generates immediate revenue for your school. The student purchases the course, you automatically get that revenue in. So it's a very quick kind of a one-off purchase. It also provides really nice access to things like upsells and cross-sells, which we'll talk a little bit about as we get further into this. But things like paid certifications or other related courses can be used for upselling and cross-selling. The best thing about it is it's straightforward, it's easy to set up, and it really does work with most of the industries out there, right? It's a one-time purchase. It fits in pretty much every industry that you want to deploy it in. So a good example of this would be an IT school that I work with. They sell coding courses for developers, right? And they sell those to beginners, intermediates, and advanced users. So what they have actually done is set it up where when a beginner or an intermediate completes a course, let's say on SQL development, right? They will automatically get a pop-up that says, hey, congratulations, you completed SQL 101. Here's 10% off of your next course for SQL 102, right? So there's that upsell. Makes it very easy for you to upsell those one-off purchases. And then you have things like this for the advanced users. You could potentially have when they complete the advanced course, maybe they finish .NET programming and you want to pitch C#. So again, that they complete that course, they get a pop-up that says, hey, you've completed .NET, congratulations. Now it's time to start learning about C#. So again, very simple model we're all very used to, but it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Again, allows for great upsells, very easy to deploy, and very simple model to use. And then on to Vitoriana for the next one.
Brett, I love one-off sales as well, but you know what? They give you revenue today, whereas subscription models give you revenue and engagement for tomorrow, next month and next year. What we've seen is a direct link here at LearnWorlds between subscriptions and success. In fact, 37% of our client base is using some type of subscription model. And the key is that they all report spikes in revenue and threefold increase in learner engagement since they took up this model. So there's an example I'd like to share, a company specializing in operational assessments. When they switched to a subscription-centric approach, they saw a 30% rise in revenue in just the first quarter. And that proves that this model comes with continuity, consistency, and predictability in terms of revenue. And subscriptions, shouldn't be one size fits all. You can be flexible with them as well. In terms of access level, for example, you can offer single course subscriptions, or you can have an all access platform or membership site like George presented before and suggested before. And also in terms of time frame, you can offer your subscriptions in both monthly intervals or annual intervals, and then your customers can choose how long they want to commit for. But of course, in terms of value as well, you could create tiered subscriptions, and we see that a lot with the basic tier, where you can include access to all of your on-demand courses and content, and then those premium tiers will be the ones that come with additional perks like participation in live events, one-on-one sessions, peer community. And some more extreme cases, I've seen a client of ours operating in B2B fitness that actually offers partnership and affiliation opportunities for any premium subscriber. So this shows us that both individuals and businesses are a great audience for subscriptions. The most important thing that I want to close though with subscriptions is that they're not just a revenue machine. They should be a promise and a commitment from you as a course creator towards your learners that you are committed, to keep offering continuous value in order to build those long-term relationships. So then I'd like to keep on going with another powerful model. This is the reselling model I'd like to go to next. And here's how it works. So instead of being the sole creator of content, you can bring in additional creators to build content and courses within your school, and of course, share revenue with them. Or you as a creator can resell your existing content to other established academies and schools. This model is very attractive if you're looking to expand your reach, but you can do everything on your own, and that's everyone, I think. So, for example, digital marketing consultant developed a course that became a cornerstone of several business school curriculums. And so they licensed the course, they started earning royalties, and they secured a steady flow of income from multiple institutions. And at the same time, they also gained recognition in their field because this course was was branded. So there's benefit in both parties involved in this kind of model. For school owners, you expand your offering, you bring in subject matter experts, and thus you kind of become a one-stop shop for your students and makes them engage more with your content and stay more, and then increase their lifetime value, of course. But for creators, you can scale, beyond your reach, and you can leverage or tap into the audience that other more established institutions might have. And the big takeaway is that reselling, does not just bring in additional revenue, it also extends your educational influence. And nowadays with AI, you can use that to repackage, you can use it to customize your courses, and so to really tailor them for delivery into other audiences in different contexts and so on. So whether you're inviting creators into your own academy or you're reselling your own material, this model builds partnerships, multiplies reach, and generates ongoing revenue streams. But instead of me telling you all about it, I'd love for you to hear directly from someone who's been putting, this model into practice. Jeremy is one of our LearnWorld's experts and has been operating a reselling model. So to hear more about how this model works in real life, Jeremy, please share with us your insights and your journey.
Thank you so much, Victoriana. And I'm excited to be here. I will say I geek out on business models. It's somewhere that I think so much room for innovation exists. And beyond what I share today, please don't take that as sort of a one size fits all. I'm happy to talk more if anyone is interested beyond today's session. I left my details in the chat. So for the sort of short overview of Goalmakers, the company actually started in 1994. It was more coaching and consulting. I had the pleasure of joining the team in 2018. where we took an in-person seminar, which was called the 5-Day MBA. We took the book and intellectual property to say, let's build this into a 10-week mini MBA program, but move it online so people don't have to travel. And so that was the crux of what our business plan originally was. Early on, we got introduced to a trade association, one of our first partners. Shout out to the Material Handling Equipment Distributors Association, MHEDA for short, with the opportunity to say, hey, our members need this type of training. And what the light bulb moment was is, let's take what we've built and white label it for MHEDA. So as opposed to them sending people off to the Goalmakers platform alone, we work in tandem to build a program that doesn't lead with Goalmakers branding, but it completely white labels it. It's one of the reasons we chose Goalmakers in the first place, or LearnerWorlds in the first place, with this ability to create sort of bifurcated courses, programs, landing pages for all of our different partners. And so we white label our school for those partners. We work with existing trade associations, and they bring that trusted brand. So Vitoriana, you mentioned that idea of scale beyond your reach. That's exactly what this model allowed us to do. And so a few key differentiators. We say we're fully turnkey. I'll give a little bit more about that on the next slide, but there's no cost to work with us for our partners. It is the end learner that sort of pays that cost. And so if you jump to the next slide, I'll sort of dig in a little bit more. So the sort of 4 pillars I'll talk about today, and there's a lot more I'm happy to elaborate on, is that first one I'll say, trade associations typically rely on dues. So if you're a member of the association, you pay $100 a month per person or $5,000 for your company to be part of this community of companies. And in the process, it's either dues or typically events that bring them in revenue. But education is a huge opportunity for associations. So we came to the association and said, look, there's no cost to work together. So in the process, there's really no downside for them to bring this in front of their members. We take all the upfront risk in building this out and white labeling it. And in the process, I sort of made that line underline there. We must be conscious of who we partner with. This is something that has evolved for our business over the past few years to find the right customers for us, because not everyone is the right fit. So just be conscious of that if you do approach a reselling or repackaging model. The second part of this is that we're not just saying, oh, we built a course, here, send it out to your members. We're a turnkey partner. And a lot of people say the word turnkey, but they don't actually execute on it. We build marketing resources, we build social media banners, we build email signature logos, we create newsletter blurbs, we create individual email templates, we offer meetings and one-on-ones with any interested members. We want to take that lift off of their team's plate and say, we are an outsourced part of your education, but we operate as if we're an employee of your organization. And so it's not just, hey, here's the course. There's a ton of actual value add that we bring to the table as this sort of customer-centric relationship with those partners. The third piece of this that I like to point out is the idea that it's a win-win-win. So I have there at the end of the slide, our lifetime net promoter score is a 78. If you want to look at what that is, that sits in like the excellent sort of world-class arena. And that's because the end learners say, we really enjoyed this program. And they give us testimonials, they give us feedback. We can share those with our partners. And so it's not like we're selling snake oil to their members. We're giving them a truly beneficial program that they didn't have to build. We work hand in hand in the marketing and resources, but we also see the revenue generation. We're building a program, we're growing our learner base. And I'll say again, Vitoriana, I love how you said it. We're scaling beyond our existing reach with this trusted partnership. And so it builds impactful learning for their members. Goalmaker sees a win, and they didn't have to pay upfront some big licensing fee. They see a revenue share. So we give a percentage of all sales back to our partners. So they are financially incentivized and have that member benefit. And then the third part, I'll just sort of repeat this again. This has been a model that worked for us. We have 85 trade associations across the world. Primarily, most are in North America, but across the entire planet, we are operating, serving over 3,000 learners over the past 5 years. It's been a fantastic model because we stand out from the noise. We're not trying to be a B2B learning provider for every company. We're trying to find the right companies in those memberships. And so proud to announce that this year we'll cross the $1 million annual recurring revenue, which is a super exciting milestone for us. but it wouldn't happen unless we took this path. And I will just say this, Learn Rules has been a great partner as things have evolved, as we've continued to build resources to be member-centric to those learners. It allows us to operate this model in a really seamless way. So again, if anyone's curious to reach out, I already had one person send me a LinkedIn just now in the past 5 minutes, but happy to talk more or answer any questions. But thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, and congratulations, on your success. What I keep from this is that it's not just about the content; it's about the servicing, and trying to remove barriers while also facilitating the adoption by our clients. But I wanted to return a bit back to what you said. You actually started with coaching and consulting, and that's what I was about to pitch next. There's another model that we see a lot, and this is completely different and going beyond just selling courses, because what you offer is direct access to your expertise. Either this is on a one-to-one setting or a small group setting, and it makes a huge difference because while courses deliver content, what coaching and consulting can deliver is a connection, trust, and building a relationship. So we see many clients using this model, but they structure it in different ways. So most often, some creators might offer a free or low-cost entry, course, and at the end, learners can book a one-on-one consultation. And that live session becomes the bridge to more premium courses and more premium consulting opportunities. Other clients bundle packages. So they bundle up 5 or 6 sessions, sell them all at once. And others, they include coaching inside their premium subscriptions, where members get a monthly, one-on-one or group session as part of the plan, and on top of the self-paced and other kinds of material that the course is offering. And this creates a predictable revenue and increases the engagement, as we said before, during the subscription models. So it's 2-in-1, really. And this is a really valuable model, of course, for learners. Primarily, it is personalized support. They see you as not just a course creator, but as their advisor, and they are not just passively watching videos. They get guidance that is tailored to them. And for you, of course, as a course creator, it's an absolute opportunity and a way to generate recurring revenue, because every consultation can lead to, additional packages, additional courses, an opportunity to create long-term coaching relationships. That's it from the coaching and consulting, and I'm gonna give you back to Brett to continue with more corporate solutions.
Thanks, Toriana. And you mentioned, customized and tailored, which are both words that are ringing in my head right now. So our next model is actually a very common model for customers who focus on selling training to other businesses. Corporate training has been around for a long time. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience tonight have at some point gone to some type of corporate training in their lives. And it is effective. It actually has been proven to improve employee engagement up to about 30%. So, but unlike the one-off sales model that we discussed earlier, customers who utilize this model lean heavily on customization and tailoring their content, such as having customized branded courses, landing pages, and learning content. It's ideal for sectors that have kind of focus on professional development, things like sales or HR or leadership or IT. And really what it is a focus on development and selling tailored training solutions to small to large scale or enterprise businesses, right? There's a lot of benefits to it. It helps us kind of tailor our content, not just kind of build content and have it available and have people kind of buy that content, but actually tailor the content to the customer that we're working with. So we can tailor that content and we can meet that customer's needs, and we can provide them with exactly the training that they require, right? And it also allows us to easily show value, because we can go back and we can look at the analytics and we can pass those analytics on the user progress. Are my users or are my employees completing the content? Are they progressing through it? What are their test scores, right? We can pass all those analytics on to the customer, which is immediate value for them because they can see that your training is working. It also provides flexible revenue models for us. Not only do we have the old option of kind of charging that one-time upfront fee, but we also have the ability now to do something like per user pricing, right? So if you have 50 people that you're training and you can charge that customer based off of the 50 users, you can change your pricing model based off of the needs of that customer. So this also leads to bulk sales, which everybody loves, right? With bulk sales comes bulk revenue, right? We have big buckets of money coming into the school or the organization because we're making these big sales working with other organizations. Now, a good example of this is actually would be something like a sales academy, right? That focuses on customizing learning programs based off of their customers' weaknesses and strengths when it comes to business development. Now, they have the option based off of the customer's needs to understand what the customer needs from you and to change that pricing model based off of those needs, right? So they could say, based off of the size of your team, or based off of the end goal here, right? This is what we're going to charge for this particular outcome. They have also found that, bespoke programs actually are able to provide more value to your customers, which leads to improved results and recurring contracts. So not so much a subscription, but if you are able to prove your results in this model, more than likely that organization is going to utilize you again. So you will have those recurring contracts and you will have that recurring revenue. And then we're going to go on to our next model here. And this is actually our licensing content. So similar to what Victoriana had mentioned before, it is another way for you to take the content that you have without customizing it or without creating bespoke training and actually present that in another way, right? So this model focuses more on content creators who utilize license agreements versus selling directly their content. Now, customers who have leveraged this model have actually reported up to a 50% increase in revenue compared to those doing direct sales. This is a big untapped potential here. And all it really is when you turn your courses into an additional income source by licensing your content to others. So all you're doing is you're taking the content that you've already built, you're white labeling that content, and then you're going to organizations or you're going to other schools and you're saying, hey, I have these great courses. I have great course traction in my school. I would like to license this content for your school. So now they're paying you for the content that you already created and the content that you're already selling in your own school. But it's white labeled, right? You're able to reach more audiences this way. So your content can spread easily. They can sell your content. You get paid off of it in the long run. You get upfront fees, right? So you could charge upfront for the content, or you could even do something that's continuous. You could have a model that says, hey, I'm going to sell this to you for 3 years. We're going to license to you for 3 years. And then you have 3 years of revenue coming in from that course while you're selling that course on your own in your own school. So we don't need to take that time to create all that customized content like you would if you're doing corporate training. We actually create the content, create a white labeled version of it, and then we can start having other people sell that content for us. So it saves us time and money. A really good example of this is I have a customer now who's accredited in Nursing Academy, and their content is fantastic. They've done a great job. They're well known for what they do, and what they've actually done is they continue to sell their content in their school, but now they've actually reached out to other medical facilities, other universities that are training medical students, and they've licensed their content to sell at those organizations. So now they're making money in their own school, and they're making money at those other organizations as well. Those organizations are paying them for their content. So it's a really nice way to take what you have, repackage it a bit, and then make additional money from it without having to spend a lot of time with customization. Now we're going to go ahead and actually move over to Angela, who is the founder and CEO of ECE Learning.
Hi everyone, it's wonderful to be here with you at 1:30 a.m. in Australia, down under. So good to be here. And I think we may be the poster child for all of these models you've been talking about. I think we do just about every single one of them, which actually has evolved for us over time. So we originally started with a single webinar. We met the market where it was, and during COVID times, we worked with early childhood educators and leaders and centre owners who needed ongoing professional learning to stay current in their practice, because when they are current in their practice, they do a wonderful job with our youngest children. And so, yeah, we started with a single webinar, and we never for a million years imagined that we would be where we are today. And that's been the beauty actually of working on a platform like LearnWorlds, because as LearnWorlds has evolved, so too have we, and it makes us look even better. So that's been wonderful. Our business model now is actually a multiple opportunities that you see that Vitoriana and Brett and Jeremy have actually been talking about as well. So we have a membership model now. So we started with one webinar, and we now have over 200 pieces of content in our school. We have a regular live schedule for our members. So we go live every 2 weeks with presenters in early childhood education from around the world. So we're able to bring people with relevant expertise to our audience from around the world and give them a platform to speak to our audience. As our audience grows, the more the presenters want to be with us as well. We've also created essentially a marketplace now. So single presenters often find it very hard to sell their content on their own, but when they are able to partner with somebody like us who has an extensive growing audience, we can help to put them in front of a lot more people and sell their content. So we're known now as a marketplace for early childhood education, where people can come and source content from presenters from around the world. As Brett was just talking about, we also have licensing agreements. So we work with larger organizations that own multi-early childhood centers, and they will often start out with their leaders as being members with us who enjoy our content. They will see our content and say, hey, we really want that for all of our staff. And that's where we're able to license and package it up and say, sure, you can have those 3 webinars or those particular courses for X amount, and purchase that for all of their employees. So that's been a wonderful source of revenue for us. And as Brett was just saying, it's ongoing for us. We can put licensing permissions in place for usually about a 12-month period. We're also still continue to do single sales, and that's our biggest tool for bringing new customers in. It's a marketing tool, which you often see out there, of course, as webinars bring people in. So people will come and test a webinar with us, and then they usually convert into members after that. Often they do. We can also provide resources and tools and templates and printable things as well. So it's a one-stop shop, like Vitoriana was talking about earlier, for everybody to get what they need to support them in their role in early childhood education. And also recently this year, which has been really exciting, we've actually started to sell event tickets for in-person events via the site for some of our partners. So some of our partners work and do face-to-face work around the country, and so in New Zealand and Australia, and so we are able to act as their sales point to do that, and all of the administration and the management and the customer service comes from us. So it makes their lives easier, and we get to take a revenue share of what gets sold for them. And as Jeremy was talking about before, those wraparound services that we can put in place for our partners around marketing and tools and templates and creative, they just love that, because it takes all of that pressure and work away from them, and we manage that for them for a nice fee, of course. And so for us, the outcomes and the results over the last 3 or 4 years has been that developing recurring revenue. I never imagined and actually originally thought that that's something that we would do. But I guess as I've evolved as a business founder, I've come to understand the significance and the value in having recurring revenue. So, you know, we continue to ramp up our monthly recurring revenue, which creates a safe place for us as a business. And also that's been doubling year on year for us. And so that's going really, really well. And just talking about working with partners, we've also, the benefit for us of working with presenters and other partners is that their credibility helps to build our credibility. So we're very selective about who we work with and who we sell for and who gets to list their content on our platform, so much to the point where actually people almost apply to work with us now. So we're able to be selective, and their credibility and their reputation helps to build ours as well, and it's mutually beneficial. And so I guess just to sum up some of the key learnings that we've had over the last few years, I would say is to make it an easy decision to say yes, please, for people to buy. We've simplified our pricing, we've simplified the options to be with us. And we reduce barriers as much as we can. So we don't put, when people become members, it's unlimited access to all of our content. There's no limitations on you can only have this access to this webinar or course for 24 hours or anything like that. Unlimited access, it's a smorgasbord. We say it's like Netflix for educators. And that just reduces that decision-making that people have to make as well. And they just absolutely love it. And Learn Worlds, as I say, has helped us to shine. So thanks for having me today, this morning. It's been great being here, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for attending, Angela. I really appreciate it, and it's great to see somebody use so many different types of models in their business and really see success out of all of it.
And actually, we have many, and usually our most successful customers are those who are combining different business models, and that's why Brett's going to present you very, very shortly this decision tree framework.
Well, it's not something we're going to spend a whole lot of detail on, especially since we're running out of time here. But it's really a practical tool for you to explore on your own pace. It's something we created and have tested with real cases. It's designed to kind of help you quickly map out which business model best fits your unique project and your audience needs and the type of content that you have. So you'll find this actually in the on-demand school after the event, so you can revisit it and apply it whenever you need.
Right. Well, thank you a lot for that. Unfortunately, there isn't time for a Q&A, guys, so we hope you understand. Again, you can find all of our speakers in LinkedIn as well, and feel free to reach out if you want. So thank you, Angela and Jeremy, Vitoriana and Brett, for this lovely session. And I'm going to go quickly and move on to our next session with Brandon. Brandon, we stole 1 or 2 minutes from your session, so we hope that's okay. So let me introduce that for you guys. So let's see. Now, even if you're not aiming for like 1 million+ members, Brandon's playbook for building communities is full of lessons on engagement, on retention, and scaling trust that every training business or creator can use. So let's hear it by Brandon, a co-founder of CS Insider and EDU Fellowship. So Brandon, welcome to WAL Day 2.
Hi, everyone. So sorry, so excited to be here. I'm going to be sharing my slides. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, let me go back, get this set up. All right, can everyone see my slides on my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Brandon. Super excited to be here to talk about my journey from growing a disorganized to 1.2 million strong LinkedIn community. We have a lot to cover, and I know we only have about 25 minutes, so I'm going to be going fairly quickly, but I definitely want to see people engage in the chat. So throughout this, I'm going to be asking questions, getting your feedback, asking for how you do things. So please, let's make this a two-way conversation. But before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to look around. Everyone look around the virtual room. And you can't see everyone, but there's a lot of people in this right now, about 700 people. Some of you are starting a community project this year. Some of you maybe are trying to grow your existing one. But if you decide to whether start one or grow one, all of you probably are going to struggle with this at some point, right? Growing a community can be difficult. Here's what's interesting, though. It's not usually because, often you lack expertise or passion about the topic or about community. For 4 years, 4 years ago, I took a dying LinkedIn community with very little engagement and a lot of spam. And today that community has over 1 million members, a lot of them engaged. And this has completely transformed me and my business from unknown voice to a thought leader. So I'm here to share that story and tell you it wasn't easy. That if I said it was easy, that'd be a lie. Community building is difficult, but as you build traction and growth. Sometimes it can be disappointing, but it's often very worth it, because here's the thing: that difficulty is actually your competitive advantage as a business. If community building was easy, every creator would do it, right? Leveraging it and helping it grow your business. But this struggle creates the moat around your business that competitors can't cross. So it's definitely difficult, but rewarding. So quick show of hands here. Who here is actually, I know you can't put, I don't think you can press the hand button, but type in the chat if you are thinking about starting one, have a community. Love to know. Awesome. Let's see the people putting their hands up. It's great. Starting one, running a community already. Yes. Lots of yeses. Would love to start. Thinking about it. Okay, so it looks like a lot of people are thinking about a community. Great. Well, I'll talk about what I learned in, everything that I wish I would have done, things I did do that worked out, things that failed. It's definitely been a journey for me. We got lots of doers here, so I'm excited about this. So I mentioned this before, but here's a quick story. 4 years ago, I was just another L&D, professional, also in I work in customer success as well. And I was on LinkedIn, and I just discovered this LinkedIn group with zero engagement, drowning in spam. So instead of starting a community from scratch, I reached out to the owner and we formed a partnership to revive the community. Now, as I was building it, I was always questioning myself, am I the right person? Is this worth it? But like I said, it created new opportunities for me, new connections, coaching opportunities, partnership deals. I've had the privilege of helping thousands of people advance their careers. That's what's been exciting for me, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. So before we dive into, I always like to define what community actually is. And I want to hear from you. When I say the word community, what's the first thing that pops in your mind? Type in the chat. When you hear the word community, what pops in your head? There's really no wrong answers here. So just post whatever you think. People, support, my tribe, love that. Like-minded people, collaboration, accountability, very important. Fellowship, EDU fellowship, love it. That's why I chose fellowship. Peer support, followers. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying like-minded. Someone said another buzzword. It can be a buzzword, absolutely. My people, growth. Lots of good points here. People growing together. Yeah. So lots of things come into your mind. And I think what most people think of when they think of community are those things that you're mentioning. When I think of community, especially a healthy community, I think of three things that need to be there. And this is my Venn diagram. Now, this is not everything, right? This is three things that I think are very important that doesn't cover everything that I want to hit on. So the three things I think every healthy community needs to amplify and are one of the most important three things are shared purpose, active participation, and reciprocal value. So shared purpose is a clear mission, a shared goal or a challenge that unites members, right? Everyone understands the why behind the community. Why does it exist, and what are we moving towards, right? Where are we going? Then there's active engagement. Members are regularly doing things together, right? Whether that's posting, discussing, building resources, solving problems, showing up, whether that is to the posts or to events, right? It's activity turned into shared practice, not just one-off chatter. And then thirdly, reciprocal value. So it's kind of that two-way or omnidirectional value that flows, not just from the top down, but from your members to members, right? People are giving and they're also getting. Knowledge is shared, encouragement is given, challenges circulates among members. Again, not just from the top down, and value is being created in some way, right? You need to make sure that the members who are joining, their needs are being met, right? They're being fulfilled by being in your community. So in other words, shared purpose, the vision, the why, active participation, the behaviors, what we're doing together. Like you can think of it as like the rituals as well, which is another buzzword in community, like the rituals of your community. And then reciprocal value, the mechanism, how value is moving, how it's flowing, and how you're proving outcomes in the community. So you have to have, I think, these three, and then also a lot more, but these are the ones that pop in my mind. And now I mentioned shared purpose alone, and sometimes when you think of like the three, if you have just shared purpose alone, that's just an audience, right? It's just maybe an interest group or an audience where you're kind of broadcasting to them. You can't, if you have one of these by themselves, I wouldn't necessarily call it a community. Or participation alone. If you just had participation, that's a chat room, lots of motion, but little direction or depth, right? So if we think about, like I mentioned with the shared purpose, someone following an Instagram account or something like that, they might be thinking they're building community, but they're really just building an audience. And so I put on here like the difference between broadcast and contribute. And there's nothing wrong with having an audience, right? They serve a purpose. But if you want the benefits that we talked about, that community brings, that moat around your business, lifetime value with customers, upsells, cross sells, the community can help you get there, I think, a lot faster. And you need to understand the difference between these two things. So think about it this way. An audience is like a TV show or newsletter. You broadcast, they consume. It's one-to-many communication. You create content, they read it. Maybe they buy something. That's great, right? But a community, that's where those three circles come together. In a community, everyone contributes, or a lot of people contribute, and people are benefiting in multiple different value flow ways. It's many-to-many communication. So, your professional association that you might be a part of or something like that. So an audience member asks, what's in it for me? A community member asks, how can I help? So what does it mean for your business? Audiences often buy once. Communities create lifetime value through those relationships, through referrals to the community. Word of mouth marketing happens much more naturally and organically in communities. Members become your sales force, right? Communities also can provide things like market research. If you're running a product community, like product feedback, surfacing innovative ideas and continuing to push the conversation forward. So now I will say that community can take many forms. It's not just synchronous with platform. It's about connection, shared purpose, not necessarily technology, though that is a very important part. But you can have multiple different ways you can have community, whether that's a digital platform, like I mentioned, LinkedIn, or things like Facebook groups. So those are not being used as much, Slack workspaces, etc. But you can also have like an event-driven community, things that people meet regularly. That's the main meat of your community, is like the events that are driving people together. You can also have a hybrid approach, like courses through LearnWorlds with the additional community tools they offer is a hybrid approach. You can have online discussions with in-person meetings, virtual events with local chapters. You can have a newsletter plus a description form or a discussion tool, like with Substack. You can post questions and drive engagement with your community through Substack, both newsletter and discussion. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Now, there are 4 main types of communities. I list them here. Communities of practice, which probably a lot of you are familiar with. These bring people together who work in the same field and who share similar job challenges. So think of like course creators collaborating on engagement strategies, L&D professionals sharing training methodologies, etc. There's product communities, people who have a product and they bring people into the community to talk about sometimes best practices with like their field, but also product questions and using the product efficiently, etc. There's learning communities, which focus on helping people build skills, and there's interest-based communities. Now, you can have a mix of these things. It's not one or the other. They can be mixed. But here's a question I have for you. When you think of a community that you admire, think of a community you admire. I want to know, what is the name of that community and why do you love it? What's something about it you really appreciate? So if you are in a community, name it in the chat and why you love it. Take a few seconds to see what everyone says. Dog lovers, game developers. Speaking of game developers, I'm in a podcast community that I love a lot. They have discussions, a podcast. So they have a hybrid approach through Patreon, which is interesting. Gardening, yes, gardening, that's a big one. Accountants and bookkeepers, mental health. Nextdoor, yeah, the Nextdoor app is a good one. Baseball, church, yep. Music jammers. So a lot of people are in communities, right? Because they are very powerful. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about my journey, and then I'm going to go into some of my biggest lessons that I've learned driving my community with LinkedIn. So I mentioned I discovered my LinkedIn group. I reached out to the owner and just started a conversation with them, talked about why I want to help and how I see what's the vision for the community. We kind of got aligned on that, and we formed a partnership on the community. So I took over the community basically and ran everything with it. My goal was to rebuild trust, to eliminate spam and figure out what's the next level for this community. So the first 6 months were pretty difficult. I spent a lot of time cleaning up spam, posts about crypto investments, sitting next to like people who posting about L&D. It was like all over the place. So it felt pretty abandoned, but then I just kept posting interesting conversations, not really promotional stuff, but just real questions that I thought would resonate with L&D. We also experimented with different types on LinkedIn. So like educational images, polls, quotes, discussion, prompts, etc. And then we also started surveying the group, like what are their goals? What are their interests? And one of the things we discovered was that they wanted more opportunities to connect with each other. They wanted to build relationships. So that's when we decided to launch one of our most successful initiatives, which is our L&D speed mixers. I don't know if anyone here, because I promoted this event, is an EDU fellowship or has attended one of these speed mixers. Let me know in the chat if I have any of my members here. But this is where we meet once a month, and it's like a speed networking event. Oh, yes. Awesome. So you have 60 minutes to meet a bunch of new people. It's like you go into mixer rounds. You have 5 minutes to connect with someone. There's a discussion prompt. You come back to the main room, go into a next mixer round, 5 minutes with the discussion prompt. We also have some group activities. It's really fast paced, but fun, chill, just like, let's just come together and have fun and meet each other. And we do these every month, and they've been going on for years. And that's been something that's been a ritual for our community. So I started to push that through the LinkedIn group. After a few months, I realized, though, I need to start building something that is owned, not dependent on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn could basically close the group down, right? The algorithm could change. So I built basically a way to capture emails and to own the audience in some way, like basically drive them to a platform that is not dependent on an algorithm that can change, which everyone knows LinkedIn's algorithm changes so much. So I started to drive people to subscribe to a newsletter so I can communicate through them that way as well. How many of you, show of hands in the chat, have a newsletter or some sort of owned asset platform? So you can say like, it's not just on a social media platform, but I somehow own the contact information for the audience. Yes, very, very important. All right, I know I'm going fast, but we're just trying to get through the rest of these. Okay, so as time went, members started to engage more. Lots of great conversations were happening, not just from me, but from the members. They were posting, so the reciprocal value began to get some momentum behind it, and they were getting value from posting because they were getting their brand out there, their personal brand. They were getting people to connect with them. So, I wanted to make sure people in the community were posting more than I was posting. That was my goal in the community. And then lastly, what we've done is we've built like more of a more intensive private community. It's not really private, but more of like you have to go through some steps to join another community that goes deeper into these conversations, which has been great. And it's kind of the next step. Now that we've been pushing them to our newsletter, we now have our more private and premium community. Okay, so really quickly, I want to talk about LinkedIn groups just to let you know that LinkedIn groups are slept on, and they are super, if you use them right, they can be a super great way, top of funnel, to drive people to the next stage in your funnel. So people don't really know about them. They think of like LinkedIn, it's like, okay, it's like the place I post my resume and ask for jobs. It's a lot more than that. There are LinkedIn groups that allow you to post and get much more visibility than you potentially could on your own personal wall, though you still want to post on your personal wall. But LinkedIn groups have made some changes in the past that make groups public. So their algorithm will surface posts in your group to people who share the same interest. And whenever the algorithm really was in the group's favor, it was insane growth. Like people were posting, getting thousands of likes. Impressions were like hundreds of thousands of impressions. It was a interesting time. And now the algorithm has obviously changed recently, which you might know about, but I still am betting on LinkedIn groups long-term and am consistently posting in there because I think it's going to be, I think they're going to invest more and more in groups. So something to think about. And if you want to connect with me about LinkedIn groups, let me know. There are downsides, like you don't get many analytics on it and you don't obviously own the audience. There's not a lot of moderation tools, but again, I think it's worth it. Okay, so now let's jump into my top advice for building a community. Here are the 10 things I would give you as advice, things that I've done, I haven't done that I wish I would have done, all those things. So again, I'm not perfect at these 10 things, but something I think is important for you to consider. Okay, so one is kind of like an interesting one. Like if possible, start with a partnership, not from scratch. Now that's kind of not possible for everyone. And my situation was a little unique because when I took over the group, it was like about 200,000 members and then we grew it to 1.2 million. So, not everyone can do that, but it's something to explore and potentially see if it is something possible. Now, that doesn't mean just like finding a group that's kind of dormant, but it also could be finding someone who can be that co-person with you, that you can leverage each other's strengths, like don't go at it alone type of thing. I think is important because it is, again, a lot of time and commitment to go into building a thriving community, which I work a full-time job alongside this, which has been very challenging. So I run two communities, really, EDU Fellowship and CS Insider, which EDU Fellowship is for L&D professionals, CS Insiders for CSMs, customer success managers. So with that, with a full-time job, I would say I would not recommend that, because when you split your time, it's hard to focus. But here I am giving you advice. So just bear with me on that. Okay, so if you can, begin with partnership. Deeply understand your members. So you have to really understand who your target audience is, because this can make or break your community. Most community builders maybe will think about, okay, I just got to create content, and then they're going to come and they're going to be engaged. They assume they understand their members' problems, but assumptions alone can kill engagement. When you truly understand their challenges, their goals, their motivation, their context, that changes everything, because you can generate your content and the rhythms and the rituals of your community around those things, right? So you need to make sure you're very focused on understanding your audience. I learned this the hard way. Our group is pretty generic in the sense of like a lot of different people under the big L&D umbrella join our community. So that's been a challenge, but I'm doing more to focus in on who is actually my target audience, who is actually going to get the most value from our community. And that's going to really feed into our more exclusive community that we launched recently. So some tips I have for this is, if you are just starting out with your community, I recommend to do things that don't scale initially. So meet with your new members one-on-one, ask them questions, dig into their brain, understand what makes them tick, what keeps them up at night. Do the hard work up front so you can better understand how to scale your community, but do things that don't scale at the beginning. That can also be running surveys with members. Like, you can combine these things together, but like take it slow and make sure you focus on understanding your audience first. If you're running if you have a platform that allows it, you can create an onboarding program that asks them these questions. You can see how they go through your onboarding program and where they drop off. That's a way to like make sure they're getting value quickly. And if they aren't getting value quickly, that's a red flag to see what's going on with your community. Maybe there's something you need to tweak there. Make sure you're following up with questions, making that a very intensive, maybe 30 minutes, but a very conversational one-on-one with them, but making sure you're leveraging that to get as much information as possible. Okay, so real quick for you, for those of you who are thinking about a community or have a community, do you know what specific challenge your community, your audience, what specific challenge keeps your audience up at night? Do you know that? Let me know post it in the chat. What specific challenge keeps your audience up at night? If you don't know, you need to find out. You can make a guess. Like we can still start with assumptions, right? But we got to test them. The need to go to the toilet. Okay. Yeah. If you're running a community for some of those challenges, yeah. But that would go further than that. If you're talking about, some issues without fear, right? Adding that, not feeling effective in meetings, providing useful and unique information, staffing, bullying. Yeah. So you're listing things. Now, I would say to everyone who's posting what's keeping their audience up at night, I would push you to go a level deeper with more specificity, right? Listing out more detail about that challenge, what's keeping up at night, why is that keeping up at night, what's stopping them from being able to do it. Like listing it out in very specific terms helps you form a better picture of your community, not just, they're feeling ineffective at meetings. Well, why is that, right? So dig into that, like list that purpose out in specifics. And this goes down to the purpose, right? Getting very specific about your purpose, because the more specific you get, the faster you can actually grow with engaged members, not because you reach more people, but because the right people feel like you're speaking directly to them, right? When your shared purpose becomes too broad, engagement suffers. People can't relate to each other's challenges, discussions become generic and surface level, and members start feeling like they're in the wrong room. If someone comes to your community and they're seeing posts about things that aren't relevant to them, they're probably not going to come back, right? That's where shared purpose and specificity is very important, when they're sharing the same challenges and can relate to each other. Now, again, this is something that's been kind of a challenge for me with my community. I can't really go back now that we're at 1.2 million, but something I recommend you really think about. defining your ideal member, right? They're like we talked about their challenges, their job title, their industry context. You can start with assumptions, but then start to test those assumptions. See where your assumptions lead you, and then iterate based off of that when you're interviewing them, right? You can still list assumptions and start with them, but you have to prove out those assumptions. Start with one challenge and then expand from there, right? Don't start too broad. You can always expand broader once you've really focused in and honed in on your core audience. You can then expand from there. And then test everything, see if you're correct or if you're wrong, treat it like a science experiment, and then iterate. I've talked about this one already, having shared media, right? Driving people not just from not being just on social media, but to some sort of owned asset, whether it's a newsletter or another owned platform that you have, things that you can do to drive them where you can communicate with them without an algorithm interfering. So this could be creating a weekly newsletter that expands on your best community's discussions. You can offer events where you capture their email address, promote lead magnets that people give their email address to download, communicating with them through email as well, just like one-on-one conversations through email as a way to build relationships, but always have that backup plan. Let members become contributors and leaders. So this is something I started doing where anytime someone would post something in the community, if it was a good conversation, I would reach out to them and say, thank you so much for posting about that. That's a great conversation. Would you be interested in running a session with us on this? Basically driving people to be leaders and be involved in helping others through events. We've done AMAs, things like that. Basically having them run sessions for your community, sharing their expertise. People love to help out. And this has been a great way to build more regular rituals and content in our group is by leveraging the expertise in your community. I've just done it by when someone posts something that's interesting, I'll reach out to them one-on-one to talk about it, set up a meeting to discuss that topic and asking them if they want to run a session with us. But there's other ways you can do that too. And then, providing some benefits for them to do that. Oftentimes they're just wanting to get brand recognition and grow their brand through that event. Use AI to scale. So this one basically is like, make sure that AI can be very powerful, but you don't want to have it overrun and basically take away your voice. I use AI to do certain things. I use Claude projects in ChatGPT, but I mostly use Claude projects, and I build very specific instructions with Claude to help me do the work of 5 people, whether that's brainstorming content ideas, polls, I help it refine my messaging. I've built basically an army of bots that I go to with those instructions to do certain tasks much faster than I can do it alone. And I help it leverage, give it my voice so it can replicate that when I do want to refine some messaging I have. But I'm a huge fan of Claude. I love ChatGPT too, but Claude is more of my helping me refine messaging tool versus Claude because it sounds more natural when it's refining and it does a better job of using my voice in versus Claude or versus GPTs. But yeah, I have a ton of projects that do a bunch of different tasks, which is awesome. And then focus on engagement. And I know we're coming at time. So engagement size is not everything, right? So I think it's more important to have 100 super engaged members than 1,000 unengaged members, right? So engagement is important. And that might mean just pruning inactive members in your community. It might mean just reevaluating if you have unengaged members, maybe your purpose is not aligned with their goals, right? That's feedback that you can take, but I'd say focus on engagement versus size. Think like a product manager, and coming up, product managers iterate, they test, right? They experiment, they A/B test different formats, they test everything, they track, right? Think of like a product manager and iterate, test, and improve from there. This can be surveys you're running. It could be basically treating everything as an experiment and tracking it and seeing how it does and going back and saying, what did I learn from this, right? What I sometimes do is treat every month as a new experiment I want to run and track it in Notion and then come back to it and say, was it successful? Did it, what was my hypothesis? Did I prove it or disprove it in this month? So think like a product manager and experiment and test. And then diversify your revenue. So basically make sure that you have multiple revenue streams. Community can be your revenue stream. Like you can charge people to access your community, or it can be the place that you're going that drives them to actually pay for something. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this. I think the previous session talked about this. It could be a free community and then course upsells. It could be a cohort-based community where they go through a course together and they pay for that, and then alumni access in a community. It could be free community with different tiers of access to different spaces. It could be event-driven community where they can join the community but then pay for events. Like there's a ton of different ways. Or you can have it where it feeds into your consulting business or your services pipeline, right? There's a lot of different ways, but you think about how you diversify that. And then lastly, which we talked a little bit about, is start small, find your footing. Don't go too big. Don't go too fast. Don't go too big too fast. Because again, you want to make sure you're understanding your community and what you're trying to achieve and iterating enough so that when you do scale and you are going faster, you're doing the right things because you've done the hard work at the beginning. And I didn't pay for a lot of the tools. When I first started, I paid for really cheap tools. Like for example, this is what I use for my newsletter. I just used Card, which is like $40 or $25 for the year to get people to sign up for my newsletter. I bought a tool that was like a lifetime deal for sending emails. It was like $40, super cheap. I didn't invest in expensive tools until I really started to understand the community. And then here's just like some tools that I love and I use. I mentioned some of these: Claude, ChatGPT, Canva, a couple other tools that I recommend you check out, Midjourney, etc. All right. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Community is difficult, but it's worth it. It could be a big win. And I'm hoping you're willing to put the work in. And please let me know if I can help you out in any way. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Brandon. We've also shared your LinkedIn link in case you guys need to connect with him over there. So thanks a lot for this session.
Yep.
I feel like we do not have enough time to take a break. So let's go straight and introduce our next session. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen. So our next session is scaling content workflows with AI, from quick wins to systems. So if your content creation ever feels overwhelming, then the session is for you. You'll see Margarita and Maddie, and they'll share how to fold AI into your workflows, into your daily workflows, to save time, to keep your quality high, and to grow from small wins into actual scalable systems. So with that, let me introduce Margarita Loktionova. Hello, Margarita, a content marketing lead over at SEMrush. It's great to have you here.
Hi.
And alongside, hello, and alongside we have Mari Osman, a content operations consultant and founder of the Blogsmith agency. So hello, ladies. Great to have you both here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course, feel free. The floor is yours and the screen.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm gonna start sharing. Yep, there we go. So, I mean, first things first, right? Why does this topic matter so much? I think everyone noticed there has been a lot of AI hype lately, and which kind of causes us all to have a lot of FOMO, feel like we're missing on something amazing. At the same time, I see a lot of businesses and actual reports claiming that integrating AI kind of doesn't bring the ROI that companies are hoping for. And I think that the problem here is a certain content operations gap, right? There are teams that work at very high velocity. They produce a high volume of content, but the quality really suffers. There are also teams that still move too slow for what content marketing requires from us in 2025. However, there is also a small percentage of teams that manage to create the structured, efficient content engines. And the thing is, AI itself is not the difference. The operational discipline is. Because again, AI is just part of the system, it's not the system itself. And the bottom line is that hoping that AI will replace your entire marketing team or entire content team and will just magically solve all problems from day one is not realistic, and it's a path to failure. But ignoring AI when it comes to content creation and marketing in general is pretty much the same. And the first step that I always recommend taking is analyzing your existing content marketing operations and processes. So audit the key stages, right? Like research, writing, editing, publishing, distribution. Look at your project management tools. Look at basically, at how different tasks are distributed, how much time each task takes, when things usually get stuck, and ask your team members directly. Your goal here is to pinpoint areas where AI can truly add value. And to do that, you need to answer a few critical questions, like where does this work normally get stuck? What feels like unnecessary work? And also, which tasks tend to repeat endlessly? The typical areas, like those typical pain points, can be things like, getting feedback or creating content, updating content, collecting data, approving things, and basically any routine work that no one really wants to do, but it still has to be done. For example, for my team, for a while, it has been updating product information in blog posts, right? Imagine at SEMrush, we have dozens of products, and every time a naming is changed, a new feature is added, you need to go in and edit, let's say, 200 articles. So this is a real bottleneck that just dramatically needs AI and needs automation. So as you progress with your analysis, you would at some point arrive at several categories of tasks, and you could look at them from the standpoint of how much time and effort each task requires, and also how frequently you need to perform it, and whether it's kind of a routine task. And the group of tasks that, let's say, you need to perform them quite frequently, and they do require a lot of manual effort, but can also be somewhat standardized. This is your number one focus, right? Again, things like routine updates, repurposing content for different channels, maybe creating low effort content like help center articles, right? This is where you start. At the same time, there would be other areas, for example, where you might think about a mix of AI and human input. For me, these are things like thought leadership content or complex long-form pieces, SME-driven content. Here you might use, and you should use AI in some bits of the processes. For example, right, you run an interview with an expert, you use an AI tool to generate a transcription. Then you might use AI, let's say, to analyze this transcription and create an outline or like extract quotes. But again, you need a lot of human involvement and expertise here to create something useful. And yeah, basically, this is where you get started. But even before you start adding AI to the mix, so make sure you have a clear process and you have the fundamentals in place. So think about design system principles, right? And I mean, having standardized templates for different tasks in different parts of the production workflows, having documented processes and SOPs, for research, for creation, for approvals, and actually for using AI, and also assigning ownership, not only to different parts of the production process, but also to AI integration. There should be a person who's responsible for the whole AI integration project and for making sure AI kind of gets implemented across teams. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I can share here is start with your biggest bottlenecks and not the coolest use cases, because this way you can actually see real results and you can extract some metrics, let's say, that you can use to report to the stakeholders. This could be time saved or faster turnaround or even direct feedback from your teams, but something to justify further investment in AI. Because I think what happens a lot, people just see all this AI hype content on LinkedIn, they're trying everything. And of course, since it's disorganized, you're not seeing instant results or there is no widespread adoption in the company, and those projects tend to fail. And again, I feel like the basics are really important. So I always recommend using also kind of specialized tools for content marketing. I really love Relato. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, just love recommending them. So it's a project management tool that's specifically for content marketing. And it pretty much helps you to create this fundamentals, right? You can use different templates for projects, for different types of content, for different channels. And so again, once you have this platform where you have a clear process, where you have all the documentation in place and there is a person responsible for every step, this is where you can move to AI and automation. So to sum it up, right, what we need to do is we need to analyze our content marketing processes, look at time span, task complexity, and cost structure, pinpoint biggest project bottlenecks, and then select one or two high friction, high impact areas. From here, we can move to AI integration. So as you can see, there are kind of three core areas you need to have in place for it to be successful. One is clear goals, right? Having specific objectives and metrics that you want to achieve after integrating AI. Number two is, of course, having solid content operations, what we already talked about. And number three are obviously tools and the automation layer. And there are kind of three main levels of AI integration in content marketing, specifically that we normally observe. So the first level is the most basic one, and it's more about the individual creator lens, right? Different people on your team, in your company, using AI kind of for themselves on their own to draft, brainstorm, edit, research tasks. At this stage, you would kind of encourage people to start developing and reusing top performing prompts to create consolidated projects in tools like ChatGPT and Claude, and start uploading some project documentation. So it's, where you just encourage people to start testing, experimenting, and see what works for them. At level 2, this process becomes more structured. So you, at this stage, add shared prompt libraries, internal SOPs, AI quality checklists. For example, you might want to develop and upload brand guidelines. So then different team members, let's say, when they use AI to create content, this content kind of follows specific tone of voice guidelines, or, it has specific product information. You might also start developing custom GPTs trained on corporate information. Again, it could be a custom GPT to create LinkedIn posts or to check information, on whether the product is mentioned correctly, or to check for the tone of voice guidelines. So in other words, at this stage, you start building processes and tools that can be used by various team members at the company level. And at level 3, this is where it gets really interesting. At this stage, you start connecting systems with your AI and automation tools, with platforms like Zapier, Make, Relay, Writer. For instance, you might build a tool that will push customer FAQs into a content backlog automatically. Or you might, again, automatically update product references across blog posts. Or maybe you want to auto-distribute published posts to different channels. In other words, this is where you start building automated workflows that perform multi-step tasks for you. So at this, let's hear and learn more about this level 3. And Mehdi, over to you. Whenever you want me to change the slide, and if I'm missing it, just let me know.
Sounds great. Thanks, Margarita. Okay, so yeah, we're going to take a lot of what Margarita was just talking about and try to apply it to building your own tools, to solving your own problems. And I'm going to share a couple different levels of that. We can go to the next slide to talk about the first one, which is AI agents, which is kind of a popular buzzword. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. There's really like a spectrum of the easy tools you can use to, coding them using Python. And one tool that I've found to be really effective is Zapier agents. And so this agent that I'm describing here, and by the way, I'll also mention the LearnWorld staff is going to share the links to all the different things that I'm linking here in the chat. So look out for that, and you can interact with them, before you get the slides. I'll try to share them at the end too. And so for this particular agent, I use Zapier agents, which is this great tool that uses natural language instruction. So it's really approachable. They also have a nice template library that you can play around if it's your first time using it. And the other thing that's really great about Zapier agents is if you're familiar with it, it connects to and integrates with a lot of different tools, and you can use those same tools or versions of them in your agent. So you can really, go as simple to complicated as you want. And so for this particular agent that I built, something to hopefully inspire you, it basically runs daily. You can set a trigger just like in Zapier automations to run daily, to trigger from another app, things like that, run it on demand. And what it does is it transforms trending news into branded social content. This is something that I just don't have time to do every day, don't have the energy. And so what it does is first it runs a Google search. So you can imagine like AI automation, finding news about that. Then what it does is it qualifies that news as relevant to my audience. In the instructions, I ask it to answer a couple questions, and then it outputs those answers into Google Sheets so it could reference it later. Then it creates social posts. So it uses my style guidelines, it uses character count limits on X and LinkedIn and things like that. And it creates draft social media posts. And then finally, and I think this is a really important step, the agent that I built then outputs to Slack so that I can review it before I share it out. And so that idea of having like a human in the loop at the end of your automation, especially when it comes to like this public facing content you're creating, is something that I would challenge you to think a lot about. And we can go to the next slide. So besides agents, I also wanted to kind of introduce this idea of vibe coding, and we can go to the next one as I explain this. Vibe coding. So I just want to say I have a little bit of a front-end web designer background, but the stuff that I'm building with these vibe coding tools is really beyond the level of coding knowledge that I have. So I just want to encourage all of you, it's something to get used to. It's something to experiment with and play around with, but you do not need to be a coder, an expert in order to achieve the type of results that I'm sharing with you today. So this first tool is something that I built out of kind of my own need. I wanted to be able to, in my keyword research process, analyze the top performing SERPs, which is the search engine results page for a given keyword. I wanted to see how long those articles were in terms of word count. I wanted to measure the median of those 20 results. I wanted to measure any outliers. And I wanted to also determine if any of those pages were not counting towards the total. And so basically it uses a web scraper and it uses Google search data. This is one of the first things that I built, vibe coding, and I used a tool called Replit, which is really powerful, really cool. I use it for a lot of my workflows. All of the tools that I'm going to mention have a limited free plan, so you can go and just start playing around. Let's go to the next one. And again, we'll share the links so you could play with it. I think I see it in the chat there. Another tool that I built just out of my own need, and this is maybe more relevant to the people here today, is just like my own ideal writing assistant. And so I created a Chrome extension, and you can see here kind of what it looks like. And basically, I wrote a book over the pandemic called Writing for Humans and Robots: The New Rules of Content Style. And I shared a lot of my processes for writing in that book. So I'd already thought through the logic of like how I write headings, how I construct sentences and things like that. And I basically took what I already wrote and just translated it into logic that I could use as I was writing to transform text, to make it shorter, longer, have a thesaurus component, transform title casing, things like that. And then the other thing that I did after I kind of figured out the basics was adding a database component so that I could, by the different brands I was writing for, be able to share, oh, here's a new topic idea, or here's just a note about style from their edits and things like that. So something like this could be really useful for you, whether it's for writing or something else, just to build kind of your own Chrome assistant that keeps you in flow as you're working, and you can just log ideas and use it to help you out there. And I used bolt.new for this one, which is very similar to Replit, and we can go to the next slide. So I think like maybe the most approachable idea here is this one. I'm using a tool called V0, which is pretty known for sort of like the front end, more simplistic coding. All these tools can probably do more or less the same things, but they each have their flavors of greatness. And so something I would challenge you to think about is like, how can you make your content more interactive, more shareable, and really more useful to learners? And so this is just one example where I found a comic and it was about how to calculate the ROI of automation. And I basically just gave V0 this prompt. I said, check out this comic. I want you to build a calculator from this. And it was like seriously that simple. It built this tool. I've done like similar types of prompts for things like quizzes and just like mini tools. There's a lot of different ways you could use it, but that would be, I think, a really fun place to start if you're interested in this idea and intrigued to try more. So we can go to the next slide. So, as you kind of look through these different things, I've spent tons of hours experimenting and playing and, just trying to figure out how I can fit this in to make my life easier. And so you might be wondering, like, when does it make sense to build something lightweight versus spending a lot of time building a full automation? And so my big recommendation to you is like, even though these vibe coding tools make a lot of things possible, try to avoid recreating your favorite software as a service tool. They're well maintained. Experts, have contributed their logic to them. And the thing with vibe coding is like every feature you add inevitably breaks things that you have to then fix. It's probably not worth, what you would save in subscription costs, just like the time it would take to have to rebuild something. So focus on the little things. So vibe coding is essentially great for like widgets and small tools like the ones that I've shared with you. Agents and automations are better for complex workflows that involve multiple sort of chains of logic. And then another tool that I've been experimenting with from this content perspective is called AirOps. And AirOps is kind of just visually a marriage between like Zapier and Airtable. It is a little more advanced compared to some of these other tools. You kind of have to have a sense for how you want to use it. They have a lot of examples that you could start with. And one thing that I'm using AirOps for right now is to try to build out my keyword and topic research process to see if I can create some efficiencies that AI can take over and then, again, be that human in the loop as I, figure out the best parts of the process to use AI versus my own human insights. All right, and let's go to the next one. So I think like ultimately, and I know Margarita said this earlier, but it's really easy when it comes to building things and experimenting with AI to try to solve problems that aren't actually true issues. And so it's better to really start with your existing workflows and any bottlenecks you have and try to solve those problems first versus trying to create something shiny and new. And like, I hope that some of the examples I shared have proven that. They've all been things that are already part of my process, and I'm just adding a layer of efficiency to them. All right, let's go to the next one. Just a couple more and then we'll wrap up here. So I guess an inevitable question is like where to draw the line between like where human input is necessary, where AI can help. So again, it's like things that involve expertise, opinions, like thought leadership, any sort of like case studies and like narrative control. It should really start with the human there. You can use AI for pieces of those processes, but you want to keep it human as like the big thing. I think it's important to keep in mind that this idea of incorporating AI into our work, however we're doing it, it really does require strategic boundaries. It's not good at everything, which we'll get into in the next slide. So think about AI, go back for just a second. Think about AI as like a brainstorming partner. It's not something that you shouldn't start from a blank page. It's something that you want to use to help you strategically along the way. And then the other thing to think about is hallucinations from AI are both a good and a bad thing. When it comes to content creation and the sort of like confident incorrectness, that can truly be a liability, I think, for just about any brand, especially a brand in a regulated industry, using content, that hasn't been carefully fact checked, which is not something I would rely on AI to do at this point. is something that could really get you in trouble. So to kind of summarize, this chart I think is really great. I took it from Brittany Muller, her Actionable AI for Marketers course, which I took and I really loved it. I think it's something that's really useful for trying to figure out how AI works for you and just understand what it's good at and what its limitations are. And one thing, that really surprised me, I think, about this chart is that reasoning and logic is something that LLMs are not good at. So keep that in mind. I think that catches a lot of people off guard. And with that, Margarita, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, no, amazing. Thank you so much, Maddie. I totally agree with everything said. And I think before we finish the presentation, just wanted to add a bit on this part of where to draw the line and how to use AI and when to do it and when not to do it. What I still see people talking about and worrying about a lot when it comes to content creation specifically is AI detection. And I feel like because a lot of content marketing has to do with content quality, right? This is kind of the biggest focus that everyone needs to have. If you create content to attract customers, then this content really needs to add some value. And I still see people debating okay, should I use M-dash or not? Should I have the specific structure in mind? And, my percentage of AI content should be this or that. And I frankly think that none of this matters and none of this makes sense. I mean, because if you're using AI for marketing or for content to help your team, not replace them, and to improve content quality and not make it worse, then you're doing the right thing. I mean, no one really cares about if you're using M-dashes. Google won't care if you're using M-dashes or not, or other, if there's basically percentage of AI content. We actually did research in SEMrush to prove it. What you should care about is, does my content add value? Does it say something new? If so, you are totally free to use AI to write faster, to structure your content better. So this is just something that I think we should all keep in mind. With that, I think we can finish the presentation. I'm not sure if we had any questions, but I think, Maddie, there was one question for you.
Yeah, I'll address it here. So I saw from Joel asking how the Chrome extension works. He asked, does the bolt.new Chrome extension save any edits made onto a Google Doc? And so basically what it does is I could highlight text and then it shows up in the Chrome extension and I can apply any of the transformations I want to apply to it. And then, like I said, there's a database component too. So any sort of like notes then get saved. I can associate them with certain brands. So it doesn't interact with Google Docs, at least at this point. That's something I'm very interested in trying to make happen, kind of like Grammarly, where it has the suggestions and then you can apply them. But for now, it's a little more lower tech.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I think we didn't have more questions, so we can wrap it up and have a bit of a break.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you both of you for this session.
Thank you.
Let's have a very short break, like 3-4 minutes, and then we'll get right back. All right, so I think it's time to get back from our little break. So hopefully you're all over here or getting back as you hear my voice. All right, so into this next session that is hosted by me and George Palegeorgiou, our CPO over here at Learnwells and co-founder.
Elisa, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you have
Yes.
energy, enough energy?
I have a lot of energy. It's still quite early here. So would you like to introduce the next session then?
Of course. So in this section, we will try to showcase how someone can monetize or build advanced learning programs. So with LearnWalls, and we will try to showcase both the business perspective and the platform perspective, which are two fundamental things for succeeding in the e-learning industry.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and meet Sophia. George, do you want to go through it?
Yes. So we will do this presentation through a persona. Meet Sophia, this IT consultant with a 5-person team. Training is already part of her service, but she's ready to turn it into a repeatable, always-on product. Her rules are simple. Don't break what works. I think everyone wants that. Add revenue, handle multiple learner flows, and get her brand front and center. And of course, repurpose the content fast. Today, we will show you how this becomes not just possible, but surprisingly simple. So, Sophia's purpose is to build a platform, an online school that coexists with her current tools ecology. So let's go on and start building this school for Sophia.
Mm-hmm. All right, so on to step 1 then, connect your tech. What are we doing here?
So, the first step always is to connect not just the tech, but audiences and experience. This is when we're talking about learning businesses, usually it's more about audiences and people than tech. So Sophia keeps her CRM and email tools. She plugs them into LearnWalls in minutes. The benefit is, of course, immediate. One source of truth for learners. Marketing flows keep running. Enrollment, progress, and purchasing data now fuel the whole business. So she has to sync her CRM with LearnWalls and centralize all audience data while preserving the marketing stack she knows. Why LearnWalls there? Because we have the most native CRM and email integrations, and also we are able to adapt all these integrations to different business models without replatforming. Elisa, show us how.
All right, let's go ahead and see just how easy it is for Sophia or any Sophia out there to connect their CRM. So over here at LearnWalls, we have a very extended list of native integration and third-party tools you can connect. And CRM is one of those. It could be HubSpot for you. And it's very easy to connect from here. I'm not going to show you the process. You just follow the guide. And then right into your HubSpot account, you'll be able to see all of that information, all of those user accounts transformed and translated and added into your CRM so that it's a lot easier for you to manage in a tool that you already know, essentially. Now, besides connecting her CRM tool, Sophia is doing that also by connecting her email campaign tool. So again, on the same settings over here, you'll find email integrations. It could be MailChimp, it could be ActiveCampaign. You'll see the list is quite large over here. For me, I've just connected MailerLite. It's very easy to do so, and you'll see that you can not only just connect it in minutes essentially, but also assign users to your specific email list that you may have. That goes for leads as well, for tags. You can apply auto tagging as well based on what happened, what event took place. So yeah, very easily you can do both of these from here, both email and CRM a lot faster. And right here, the goal that Sophia unlocked is that, well, she aligned her tech stack and her pre-existing workflow before LearnWorlds just in a matter of seconds, essentially.
Exactly.
So that was step one. Let's move on to the second one.
So we are switching now from expertise to revenue. Sophia has to connect Stripe with a few clicks. She has to activate the card, of course, for conversion, a card for buying multiple courses. And now she can launch offers, promotions, bundles, subscriptions, and funnels without extra plugins. So what does she has to do? Choose whether each course is free, private, or paid. Configure Stripe. And why LearnWorlds? Because we are a full commercial suite out of the box. Payments, card, offers, licenses, bundles, everything is in place. And also, we are B2B ready with multiple seats, licenses again, and so many tools for selling to big organizations. Let's see how.
All right, let me close these off. Let's get Sophia ready to sell. Just closing this so that I know I'm ready. All right, over here, actually. I forgot to mention that we also have a built-in mass email tool. Just gonna throw that in there. All right, so George mentioned Stripe, right? Now that goes for other payment gateways, of course, but right here you can very instantly connect your Stripe or any other one from this list that you want, so that Sophia or any Sophia could start getting payments right away, essentially, right? So that is step 2 over here. Next up, we mentioned the cart. So you want your cart to be efficient so that conversions is as fast as possible. You can enable it and customize it from here, and then it's super easy for users to go through them, to add products into the cart, and for the checkout process to be a lot faster and frictionless as possible, essentially. So here's how the cart option would look like. And then we mentioned offers, right? So we have the built-in marketing tools to help and support that. So what types of offers could she create? Well, the list goes on and on. So you could go from product discounts right here, whether they are auto-applied or maybe you can have them coupon-based if that's something that you want, and have them to apply to all of your products, all of your courses, your learning programs, or you can even set up bundle offers. So bundle up courses together and sell them as an offer. And again, all of these tools are right inside the LearnWorlds platform. You do not need to use any external tools to create your marketing offers, your bundles, your promotions, discounts, coupons, and so on. So all of that is in here. I think that covers step 2. And the goal over here is, again, to receive payments. And I feel like we've reached that. We have enabled our payment gateway. We have we've enabled the cart so the checkout is frictionless. And of course, we have our marketing offers and promos ready as well. So let's move on to step 3.
And also we have to say, Elisa, that LearnWorlds is the only platform that offers all these tools all together under one umbrella. So that's why this step is very crucial, and LearnWorlds is the place to be for monetizing your learning. So selling is okay. Now we have to create joint experiences, because Sophia needs self-serve checkout for individuals, 1, admin-led enrollments for groups that she knows, and SSO and approvals for corporate clients. So the 3 different journeys inside one school. So LearnWorlds is the place where these flow can run side by side. So she can control who sees what and how they get it. So Sophia has to do first enable self-serve for retail learners, use enrollments for enrolling cohorts, and then add SSO for corporate clients. So why should Sophia select LearnWorlds? Because it offers all of that things, and also private courses, approvals, automation, so are several of the things that we mentioned to be automated, and log in as a user for white glove support and QA for the Learn and View. So let's see how Sophia can do some of this stuff.
A few things. All right, so let me jump back on over here. So the first thing that George mentioned is the self-served one. So you can determine how users are logging into your school. You can enable it and then they can sign up themselves. That is one thing. Another thing that we mentioned is the custom SSO option, where if you're a corporate, if you already have your own SSO solution for authenticating users, then you can absolutely do that from here. Something else we didn't mention is as part of the flexibility, you can also do that with the social options. I mentioned that. Let's go in here. Now, if the group of users you're adding is someone you know, then perhaps the admins want to do that on their own. So of course, admins can add users manually as well, either one by one or in bulk. So enroll them to add them into the school and also enroll them or do that at the same time. So if your business model requires this, then this is absolutely something that you can do. And I think the last thing that we mentioned was the approval. If your business model requires it, you can also screen the users that are trying to enroll. So you can set up sign up approvals, enable it, and then people can request essentially to have access into the academy, and you get to decide whether you're going to approve or reject those. So just another screening process over there. All right, I think that's it for step 3. Let's go back. And again, here, the goal that is unlocked is that we're accommodating multiple user flows, whether they want to enroll themselves or if the admin wants to do that, or if you already have an authentication method in place, like an SSO, that can be absolutely applied as well.
And we haven't mentioned the fact, Elisa, that someone can customize the after login page, the page all of these guys are visiting after login, which can be splitted based on the tags that we are giving them, based on
I will mention that here, actually.
Yeah, so it's so much more complicated, the flows that we have there, the things that we can do so as to serve several streams of users. So we've done all the essentials for creating, let's say, these routes, and now it's time to talk about branding. And we do know the value of branding. So with our website builder and flavors, the site flavors, which is a unique feature in the industry, she can localize and add variations. With Theme Explorer, she can change looks instantly. She can test different looks. She can switch to looks of her school in a minute. And with our native mobile app, her brand can follow the learners everywhere, wherever they are. And let's not forget that branding is not decoration, it's trust. And it's the quickest way to higher engagement. So what Sophia has to do in Learnables? And all of that starts very easily. She has to use the Theme Explorer to change the whole branding of the site in minutes. So you can change one color and everything. It will change everywhere in your site. Or you can add your logo and that will be populated everywhere in your site very easily. Then you can build your pages in the website builder and with a couple of clicks, ship a branded mobile app with offline access and push. So why Sophia should select Learnables? Because we are offering the most customizable templates there with no code editor to keep creative momentum. We have flavors for localization and variations without duplicate sites. This is especially useful in Black Friday in front of us, where someone can build a site flavor just to activate it for a week, a totally different site for just 1 week, and then switch to another website for the school and another look and appearance, which I think we all understand that are very valuable things to do. And then I think she is more than ready to promote her brand. Elisa, can you show us a couple of things there?
Yeah, let's go ahead straight away. So the first thing that George mentioned was the flavors, and I really love this tool. Again, it is unique to Learnables in the industry. So like you said, you can build your site, have a certain look, activate it for a certain amount of time, and then, for instance, the Black Friday, and then as soon as you are done, you can revert it back to how the site was just in a matter of seconds. So there's all sorts of different templates for flavors for you to choose depending on your niche, and you can easily do it from here. Now, besides the flavors, of course, let's go back. We have our very own website builder. Now, Learnables is completely and fully white labeled, right? So you can completely eliminate all the mentions of Learnables and have it to your branding. So the site builder comes with the theme explorer right here. So a centralized place for you to essentially strengthen your brand, to select your color palette. And let me do that live so that you guys can see over here, or select your fonts, right? Maybe select the layout. Is it going to be a little bit more condensed, a little bit more comforted, or, you know, spaced out? That's absolutely up to you. And of course, you can do that in detail really for everything. So for instance, your brand primary color, you can set it from here, the dark colors, the text colors, and so on. So all of that can be very easily set from here. Now, of course, the website builder does allow you to create essentially any pages that you need to accompany your website. But I think something that I'd like to also mention that George kind of referred to, and this kind of ties in with customization flows in general, is that the website builder not only allows you to make it pretty and aesthetically pleasing, but it allows you to control the user flows. So what do people see as a homepage? Or what do people see as soon as they log in? Is it a default page? It could be a course page, or it could be a completely different page, or you can differentiate what people see based on who they are, based on their tag. So that is extremely helpful over here, because this can accommodate all sorts of different models for you and user flows, essentially, right? And of course, with that, the logo flow and so on. So this is very, very interesting over here.
Elisa, may I ask something?
Yeah, of course.
Can you just close this menu or this dialog box and click on one element, for example, the title? I think it's very important to showcase the level of settings that there are out there in Learnables, which you cannot find anywhere in the market. The actions, the layout, the effects. So you can have
visibility
in the site builder, exactly, visibility. So you can say, I want to show that template only for 2 hours tomorrow. Or you can have a scrolling effect and so on. Here in Learnables, we strongly believe that school owners should have expressive tools at their disposal. And essentially, at the very end, a school is a mirror of your personality, of your approach, of your instructional thinking, and so on. So you should have bold expressive tools in front of you. And we are always working to be the best in the class in this direction.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the last thing worth showing here, I could go on forever, of course, but we mentioned the mobile app too, right? So Learnables comes with a mobile app as well. So that is completely white labeled too. So you can customize it to your branding. It has the builder. You can decide exactly what to show, exactly what screens and pages, the menus. So again, depending on the business model, you can add different menus over here for your consultant, for your standalone courses, for instance, in Sophia's case. But yeah, the app itself is also extremely customizable.
And we are talking about a mobile editor, Elisa, that you can just drag and drop and release immediately to App Store. So this is probably for some people a different startup that is doing this stuff. And we are offering that inside building an online school. And I think we all can understand how important it is to these two to be interconnected in a very natural and straightforward way.
Yeah, and you do not need to be tech savvy for this at all. We've got you at every step of the way. We are developers and we're here to help you with the mobile app. Right, let's move on to the next step, I guess. And of course, the goal on this step was for visitors to recognize a brand. And I feel like with all of these tools, we can definitely achieve that and make Sophia's brand as strong as possible on the platform.
Yes, I totally agree. I think, again, in that direction, we are probably the best out there in enabling people to showcase their brand. So let's go to the next step, which is the content. Of course, schools means content. But usually when we are talking about content, we're not talking about creating new content. Sophia needs to repurpose what she has, usually, and fast. So we offer the course builder that can help her structure her expertise very fastly with AI. We offer the most rich library of learning activities which keep people engaged. The ebook builder, the certifications, the credibility, assessments and AI can scale measurement. And of course, we offer from July learning programs that can orchestrate the learning journey. So what Sophia has to do, She has to import slides, videos, and whatever she has and turn them into interactive learner. Let's again not forget that we are the only ones again in the market that are offering interactive video. So you can upload your video and you can start adding interactive elements on top of the video so as to make learning a lot more engaging. She has to use AI to repurpose the material. For example, upload the file so as to create an assessment, and then assemble the programs of the courses so as to make the one course experience to a mastery experience. So why LearnWalls? Sophia should select LearnWalls. The unique features that we have, like interactive video, our unique ebook builder, the AI insights so as to strengthen the understanding of all of that, how all of that works. And of course, we are score compliant. So you can build learning experience in Articulate, for example, and bring them easily inside LearnWalls, which is a huge boost for your productivity and also for it being cross-platform compatible. Elisa, let's see a couple of things.
Yep, I think content is my weak spot. I could go on and on over here. All right, so yeah, someone mentioned my tabs. I just have a lot of them because I don't want to, spend any time on loading. All right, so the first thing that we saw into that list is the course builder, right? So we have infused this part with AI. I'm not going to go through all the details, but of course, AI can help you every step of the way, from coming up with a course's name, because maybe either, marketing isn't your strongest asset. Perhaps, you have the idea, but you do not know exactly how to frame it. So he can help you with titles, with things like that, and you can create your course easily in here. Now, as soon as the course's frame is created, you go into a screen like this where you have to come up with a course's outline, right? So of course, either you have it and then you can manually just go ahead and build it from scratch, but AI comes over here to help you as well. So let's say that, this is the title for our course. You get to decide the types of learning activities that you want AI to include as part of the course's outline, from videos, ebooks, PDFs, forms, exams. You see the list goes on and on. I'll show you in a little bit. You can define the number of sections. Think of it as kind of like units. So let's say I want 2 and maybe 3 activities on each unit. You can specify key topics, define based on some content, and this is the one that I love. So you can also create the outline based on a specific instructional design approach. So can you imagine just how much knowledge that needs on its own to come up, and create it based on one of these models? But AI can do that for you in seconds. I see, George, you want to jump in here.
Of course, because LearnWalls, again, is the only platform that cares about combining theory with practice. And because we do love instructors and people that love also theory, this is their expertise, this is what they love to do, they usually want to exploit the theories. They usually want to build bold instructional plans there. So they need this combination of theory and practice. And let's not forget, Elisa, that also in our ebook, we have the possibility to create Socratic dialogues.
Yeah, I'll show that in a little bit.
Let's go on. So.
Yeah, all right. So let's say I'll go for Cope's experiential over here. Of course, you can determine some other things like course level and things like that. You can click to generate, and then that's going to come up with a suggested outline. I don't know if we want to wait for that, but yeah, here it is. Of course, you can change any of this. And the thing that I love is that you just click insert and it goes right in here directly. So you do not need to use any external tools for that, copying and pasting over. Just in a matter of seconds, just give it, there you go. So of course we only requested for 2, but here it is, based on the instructional design model that we chose.
And very soon our customers will be able to create a whole course with all the contents. So you will use theory, your direction, because we believe in directed AI. You are the director, you are the one that decides what should be done, but AI is the executor, is your helper. And we will help you to build end-to-end products with your direction. That's our vision in front of us.
Yep. So, okay, we created the course and the outline. How do we keep them engaged and motivated? Well, with the wide list of learning activities that we offer. And I think this is also unique in comparison to the competition out there. From multimedia, and you see over here, the list goes on and on, videos, and you can make those interactive with our built-in editor. PDF, SCORMs, of course, presentations, audios, YouTube, live sessions, either one-to-one or webinars, even such as this one. ebooks, and I'll show a little bit more about that in a second. You can create ebooks either from scratch or repurposing a document that you already have, like George mentioned, or use AI to create ebook from scratch. Exams and assessments, so anytime you need to measure the user's knowledge in a scalable way as well, you can do that from here, either from scratch using SCORM or again AI to help you with that. More assessment types over here, non-graded. Of course, you can create forms manually. You can use templates or with AI. You can offer certificates. Isn't that great? Just offering a proof of knowledge either after an exam or perhaps after they complete the course. Of course, you can upload your own template for it or just use the default one that LearnWhat's has. And then a few more other options over here, add social activities for your learning path. And you can really embed anything into the course's path as well from here. Now, let me focus a little bit more onto the ebook that George mentioned earlier, because it offers just so many things that you can do essentially. So of course you can repurpose and upload your file from scratch, but what I love is this option, and you will see why. So if you want to create your ebook with AI, you will see that it offers so many out of the box things that you can do. Because a lot of times when you think of ebook, you think of stale, simple text. So with this tool right here, you can see that you can create, yes, text, of course, but a creative story or a Q&A, or maybe a timeline to show how something evolved historically. Or you can create journal prompts, a glossary, argumentative paragraphs, key takeaways. You'll see the list goes on and on. You can describe something creatively. You can explain something as a character. Maybe you have, something difficult and you want to explain it as if you were a cowboy or Shakespeare. Can you imagine how fun that would be for the audience? Or create the Socratic dialogue that George mentioned. Things are a lot easier to comprehend if they are in the format of a dialogue. So I
love our icon in the Socratic dialogue, Elisa.
Oh yeah, I like that one too. But you'll see it's quite an extensive list, right? You can create pros and cons, dilemmas, provide critique, a poem if you're more, artsy and you want to be a little bit more fun, jokes, stories, songs. So the list goes on and on. I don't know if we have time. I think we don't. But otherwise, I would definitely play around and show you guys some more things that were here. Now, something last on this that I would like to show is, because we mentioned assessments, and LearnWhat's truly has a very rich assessment builder. Again, either you add the questions by hand, or you can use the built-in AI assistant to help you do just that, right? So you can add in your questions from here. I don't know, should I go add a few? Let's say
yes,
right
I think
here.
It's so easy that it's easy to demo.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead, just randomly. And of course, you can specify over here difficulty, tone of voices, and all of these things. I'll click to generate. So this is an example on instructional design models, and let's see what it's going to come up with. So as previously, obviously, these are merely suggestions. You can regenerate these, you can ask for more, and you'll see that it came up with my question. So what is one of the main principles for the added model? This is a drop-down, so multiple choice, and it lets you know which one the correct answer is. It provides some feedback for you, which is, of course, editable if you want to change it later on. So let me go ahead and insert. Again, just so that you can see how easy that is, it's right here for me. I can go in, I can change any of these. I can provide additional feedback if I want to. Sorry, let me find that over here. And I can even use AI to provide actual feedback based on the user's response, not just generic feedback only because this was, multiple choice, but you can provide true actual feedback based on the user's response. And of course, you can guide AI over here into how to make the feedback a lot more accurate. Exactly.
Lisa, I think everyone understands that he could use ChatGPT probably to produce something similar, but the interesting part here is that you are not just producing something, but you are also integrating that with the tool. So in a couple of clicks, you have a fully customizable assessment, e-assessment, so as to preview it and run it and send it to your students. So I think this is what is game-changing in terms of the learning platform, the easiness of producing content and integrating it with our platforms. I think we just have 1 minute, Elisa.
Yeah, all right, let's go back. I think I wanted to show learning programs, but it's fine. You can explore that on your own.
This learning process is just a collection of programs where you can define the path that someone follows, to drip feed the courses, to have prerequisite for the courses, and create what we said before, journeys, learning journeys.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go very fast. I think that AI here in LearnWorlds is a multiplier. This is how we see that. It's educational specific in LearnWorlds and moving into the real workflow, course planning, feedback, ebook creation, email generation, subtitles, different languages, interactive video, community assistance. So it's everywhere in the work process. And this is it doesn't replace experts. That's our motto. It makes them faster and more confident. And then I think in the last slide, we are saying that Sophia's story scale. Sophia usually starts each Sophia with one flagship course and then grows into programs, bundles, mobile, and B2B. So with us, your academy, it isn't just possible, it's powerful. And that's why I think we have in the next slide a nice offer. Do I remember?
Yeah.
So 15% off for 6 months for you. We are so thankful that you participated in the event, and we want to give you an opportunity to convert all of this experience, all of this knowledge that you got these 2 days into a real school. So use this coupon and you will have 15% off only for you and for 6 months. So I think the best time to try to build your new e-learning school.
All right. Thank you, George. And guys, make sure that you take advantage of this offer. It's now 50% off. And if you need more help, reach out to our support team at support@learnworlds.com. Unfortunately, I do not think we have time for a Q&A, so I'll jump straight on to our next and final session. So the next session is with Panos and Panos. So Panos Papadopoulos, a partner at Marathon Venture Capital, and Panos Iosos, our very own CEO and co-founder of LearnWorlds. Into this last session, they're going to discuss what drives lasting business success. So hello to both of you. Hopefully you're here with us.
Yes, yep, we're here.
Yep, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Elisa. Always after your demos, energy level is very, very high, so we'll try to keep it up. Thanks everyone for being here. I know it might have been a tiring day. Some of you have been here since the beginning, and also I see some names from yesterday as well. We thank you very much for staying to the end. This is now the closing session, and we're trying to take a step back and go a bit out of the tactical discussions and the very hands-on things that you have seen, and try to talk a bit about from a more strategic level about the sustainability and the long-term enduring growth of all your projects, all your businesses, all the amazing stuff that you have been building, and we're seeing here some amazing discussions taking place. So this is why we wanted to create this. It's also a very interesting astronomical event, since this is the session of the two Panos. We are not related. We just happen to have the same name. So we decided to bring here with us Panos Papadopoulos, who is one of our own early investors and backers in LearnWorlds, a person who is used to be thinking in systems and identifying patterns. So he will share with us some of his own thinking about how we can build sustainable businesses. Just briefly, a very quick intro again from me for those that are just catching up. I'm Panos Iosos. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of LearnWorlds. And today, our last but not least guest for the day is Panos Papadopoulos from Marathon VC. He's a key figure. You probably can't say that, Panos, but allow me to say it. You are a key figure in the Greek and European tech ecosystem. You co-founded BugSense back in the day, which was later acquired by Splunk. So you've been through the early stages of a startup all the way to be acquired by a NASDAQ company. And today, what you do is invest in companies that aim to become global leaders, LearnWorlds notwithstanding. So we believe that this can be a nice closing session by sharing some of your thoughts with us here.
Hello, everyone. I hope you have a good day and you're not extremely tired. And I hope you're going to have a very good discussion with Panos. I think my camera is off.
Your camera is off.
Yes.
Let us try to get you back on because we can't do that without the camera. Let me give it a try.
I feel I'm being cancelled.
No, it's not us. Well, I'm asking you to start. Yeah, here you are.
Yeah. Okay,
hi,
great.
Manos. Hi, Manos.
Hello.
So I'll start with a few questions, and also here our esteemed audience, feel free to ask your own questions in the Q&A box of Zoom. So we might have a couple of minutes in the end to go over that. So let me start about something that is always at the top of our mind, and these are also discussions that we're having with our customers about what differentiates an enduring business. You're coming from an investor perspective. You evaluate early stage companies all the time. That's what you do. So what do you, based on your experience, separates ventures or businesses and projects that might capture short-term attention to those that have the potential to last for 5 and 10 years, especially in today's very fast-pacing market?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Pano. I would like also here to differentiate that, venture capital is a specific kind of financing product that's not like aimed to everyone, right? It doesn't mean that if you don't raise venture capital, you don't have a good business. It's very likely that you actually have a much better business if you're not like a target for venture capitalists, right? So venture capitalist is like, this part of the financing called alternatives. And within the alternatives called private equity, and within private equity, there's venture capital. So it's at the very end of the spectrum of, when you're thinking about capital allocation, right? And venture capital is made to do one thing. Finance extremely risky, but potentially very rewarding ventures, new company formation, right? So venture capital is there to basically finance huge losses. So if you have something that will require a lot of capital to reach like a state where it's, let's say, profitable or big enough to matter, and you don't have any other way to finance it, then you're raising venture capital. You raise it because you have to go very fast, because maybe you have to invest significantly in a new technology that requires very expensive R&D, maybe it requires equipment and so on. And eventually at the other side of the spectrum, maybe you have made it through and you have become, one of the key new companies in a new sector. So it's very difficult to raise venture capital for something like a very established category. Usually venture capitalists, are chasing the new shiny things, because usually new shiny things, the market rewards them with very high multiples, multiples on your earnings, but usually there's no earnings in VC-backed companies, but your sales. So it is there. Venture capital is there if you have something very ambitious, or you are a great storyteller. Actually, you will be surprised, how much of it is like storytelling versus any financing, any financial reality. So I think it's kind of funny, because I think in education, VC is not a good usually if you have an educational school, all schools are educational, of course, but an educational business, most likely VC is not the right fit for you. And I think you should try to find more wisdom in the likes of, let's say, Charlie Munger, people who are thinking about positive cash flows and the likes. But before getting to any of these kind of business fundamentals and what it means, I think we should ask ourselves, why be an entrepreneur? Why is there something? And I don't think it's about cash flows or financing or anything like that. It's deeply, I think, an existential question. Most likely you have stumbled upon something and you don't sleep at night because you think it's very wrong. Maybe the way that we teach people Mandarin is very wrong. Maybe there's a better methodology to teach them. Or maybe there is a raising issues in society that they need, people are searching for meaning, and maybe you have this answer, or you have a methodology for people to look for the answer. And maybe you've told a few friends or more, and more people want it, more people like it, they spread the word, right? Maybe there's a new programming language that people like to use, regardless if they have LLMs whatsoever, and you want to tell other people to do it. You want to make them successful. And you don't sleep at night because you have to do it. So I think the most enduring businesses are the ones that are driven by people that they want to do the business, not because it's going to make money, but because it's an existential thing for them, because there's no other way. They have to do it. And because let's face it, like having a business most of the time sucks, right? You have to worry, you have to be stressed. Maybe money is not enough. Maybe if you have, taken up the job somewhere else, like your friends did, you will make more money and you don't go through this steep valley of death and you don't have to think about payroll or the next LearnWorks like subscription fee. But still something like pushing you to keep going. And that keep going is larger. It's larger than, thinking about like business and accounting.
Thanks, Panos, for sharing the insights. And it's also extremely important that you clarified the niche where venture VC exists, because for many people, there's this like simplistic idea of, okay, that's money. Some people are handing out money, and in some cases, you better not need it. Like you better build a sustainable business that might not need it. And incidentally, this is where more people come to you to give you money when your business is going great. So there is like this. Also, we see that in our space, lots of new projects are approaching us and people coming to us with a dream about raising investment or potentially at some point getting acquired, which might not be through a VC, but might be a simpler, smaller transaction. But I guess whether something like that will happen in the end depends on whether they will build something that is really, really valuable, at least to some people, for the pain that they are solving, something that they desperately need. You have experience with learning businesses as well, which I guess it's a kind of a newer thing also in the investment space. What do you think learning businesses in particular should be focusing in the early years to set themselves up for a long-term success? Like, what are some of the things that you've seen in smaller companies or in ventures that you have backed that make them, stand out and potentially be successful at the end of the day?
I think what really matters, what matters in every business, and what matters for every teacher is like the ultimate success is success for your customer. And there, you have to spend many hours, to be differentiated from the market, especially in this like AI slop market where everybody has content and everybody promises like things will happen for free, or there's this kind of magic thinking. But AI is not going to follow up and deeply care of whether you learned, of whether you were successful, whether the new skill you picked up is going to be actually working, and whether you're going to be telling your friends. So I think right now what is truly missing is the agency, not like the AI agency. Like, there's kind of, magic thinking, the human agency to make others successful. So think about like this chain, right? Panos cares really about you, the entrepreneurs, to be very successful. You become successful, LearnWorks is becoming successful, I'm becoming successful, and then my investors are becoming successful. It's like a huge chain. But if at some point somebody doesn't really care about being aligned, having aligned interests, like this whole chain breaks. So I think this is what you should deeply care. And I think there are many, many nice anecdotes of what Panos and team did when in the very early days, where they would have, let's say, customers flying over to meet them, and they will take them like to see the Acropolis and then go for food and this human connection. Of course, this is not very scalable as you grow up. But in the very early days, this is the only thing that you differentiate across everybody else. It's like this human connection, this originality, and this deep caring. Of course, it's like a fine line between actually doing all of these things and, paying the rent, right? So, and especially you should not like be afraid to charge if you think like the service you provide is great. And the customers who don't want to pay that, it's bad business. Like, forget them. I see it very often with the entrepreneurs that they try to be pleasant to everybody. This is not happening, right? At the end of the day, you are responsible like to your family, to your partners, to your employees, right? So it's always like a very fine balance between like being very good to your customers, especially being pleasant as a human being in the very early days, because you're building up all this connection, and this connection going to bring you more customers. But also, you have to pay the bills. So this is the more tricky part that you have to cross when you start. And of course, as you scale, the question is like, how you can, keep the same culture, not dilute it with new hires as the organization grows. Now, of course, with AI and all the AI tools you have here to author the courses, but also to create them, you do need to have as many people, which sounds bad on one hand, but for everybody starting up right now, there has never been a better time to do it, right? So you don't have this managerial overhead, and you can spend more time with what matters most, which is your customer.
So it's for me, it's great that you are sharing this with our audience. It seems that the things that we're preaching at the very low end, close to our customers, customer centricity, really understanding their points. Essentially, this is what goes up through the value chain, and this is also what like a basic principle, even at the higher value. And I also very much love what you are saying about this value chain and charging people, because at the end of the day, it's a business. Being pleasant, getting lip service, and getting everybody to be happy around something that you're sharing for free, it's much different thing than creating a viable business. So the sooner you realize that, and the sooner you start charging your first dollar, whatever, euro, whatever, but charging something, this is where really you get into the other, you really sit at the chair of the entrepreneur. That all the rest, everything that you do before that, it's meaningless.
This monetary transaction, it's what keeps you honest, right? Because you have to deliver the value to the customer, and the customer has to recognize that you give me enough value, so I'm going to pay you that price. Before you have this, actually, everybody's like a friendly tap on the back, but you can only know what's your value, and customers can understand and show the value what you're getting when you're paying, getting their money, and you invest in the business.
You mentioned AI, and we know that this is the big elephant, mammoth, or whatever, in every boardroom, in every classroom, in every deal room, everywhere else. So definitely revolutionizing industries. With, like you mentioned, a couple of examples. Also, probably a huge hype cycle, or probably a bubble. Where do you think that AI creates genuine long-term opportunities? Is there anything that you see, that you've seen very recently? I also understand, obviously, the landscape changes rapidly, but anything that you can share?
Well, you don't have to care where in the cycle. What we have to know that it's society is changing, so there are societal needs and training that may have to address those. And then there's the upskilling people have to do, because everything, all the jobs will change. Now, who's benefiting from AI? Most likely, I think it's a late cycle innovation. So you see already being the behemoths, accruing most of the value already, right? But it allows you to radically change the cost of capital to create your own business. That's, I think, where your focus will be, right? So you can create your educational videos, and now with AI, there's no excuse if they're not absolutely perfect and stunning, because that's the bar to meet. Of course, there's always perhaps you can be a bit more quirky and be organic, right? That helps, but you have to be an amazing speaker, amazing have amazing presentation skills. But you can now create parts of the content, AI generated, super fast cycles. You can update your courses also very fast, because you can use an AI tool to do it. So I think for what you're doing here in education, you have a net enabler that can allow you to create stellar content without breaking the bank. Before that, it will be a project and project management to coordinate with graphic designers and developers and so many other. Now I think you can be really, really fast and focus on what you do best, which is the content and the education part of things and the community. Yeah, don't have AI bots in your community, just be organic.
I think we haven't coordinated, but you really validate several of the things that our audience, our speakers have touched in the last couple of days. Obviously, and that's something that we're trying to serve through our own platform. The productivity and efficiency gains can be huge. A tiny team of a couple of people can do what otherwise, or a couple of years back, would require 10, 20 people to service at a huge speed. But at the center, that human connection is what keeps the thing flying, especially around education. It's still a very much human-to-human activity, especially a community, a function that somebody can build around. And if I can pick your brain for a couple of, ideas and thoughts for our customers. You've been investing traditionally in cloud businesses, infrastructure, blockchain, more recently energy and defense. So you're seeing these are hugely transformational sectors and fast growing for the entire economy. How do you see the intersection between these sectors and potentially education, learning? Where are there opportunities for something like that? Where also do you see the skills landscape going in the next 5 to 10 years? Or perhaps this can create some nice cross-pollination here with our audience.
Well, if there's a hot sector in the economy or within investors, just don't go in it, right? it's a fake. Like people will understand it, don't do it. Like there's all these like crypto missionaries and so on. Like if you were doing like, I don't know, you cared about elliptical curves in 2005, maybe then you had something to say in crypto. But if you're just like want to sell or teach people how to trade, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it, at least in the long term, which is what we're discussing. Now, if you have been working in a sector that was like far from being like loved and now it is, I mean, oh, jackpot, congrats. It's now your time, right, to shine. So I will say like to ignore the trends and focus on what matters for you, at least like the macro trends. Like the macro trend, of course, now is that we're seeing like people and jobs be disintermediated, right? And you know, every new technology requires like people like to use it, like to bring it into action. So there's always going to be need for training. Like maybe you will be working at a corporation, or maybe you see like opportunity now to teach other people how to use like a new technology. If you understand it, if you are actually truly an expert, there's always going to be like an opening. Or maybe you were doing, I don't know, like data science training, like the old way. And now there's a new way. Like, of course, you have to get to know how to do it. Like I have a friend who has like a school that's teaching people how to use like AutoCAD and all this 3D rendering. And now you can do it, of course, also via LLM. So you have to increase, like, and of course, stay up to date with the trends if they are relevant to you. And I think everyone should develop an understanding of the macro trends, right? Might be not something relevant to you right now, but eventually will, and macro eventually will find you. So you can't like afford not to be well educated in the grand scheme of things. Now, of course, where you go learn about the grand scheme of things, it's something that people have to develop an intuition for, understand where they're getting nuggets of the truth versus somebody else, like, you know, way of thinking and being programmed actually. You know, I have my few picks of what sources I like to read and study about the macro. But yeah, my point is don't jump into a new fad or a new trend, because, you know, it's going to be fake and people won't understand it. Just try to be authentic and only like cater for your niche that you know and you care for.
So that's also like, I really like that. It again ties with some of the themes and some of the things that we discussed here about originality, being genuine, not just hopping along every new trend that comes, but creating your own space. So this is what creates attraction, creates human connection, creates a community around. Or if you have to follow along, you have to be very, very fast. So you have to leave before the bubble catches up with you, or the tsunami that is coming. You've been on both sides of the table. You've been a junior founder looking for money, talking with investors, and you've been an investor. What's one thing that you wish more founders understood about investors, not particularly about VC, but about the people higher up the value chain, as you described them before, and vice versa, investors understanding the point of view, I guess, of founders?
If you are set to raise investor money, then I think you have to educate yourselves about like how investments work and how different investment vehicles work. So that's one. So I guess there might be some school in LearnWorlds that may be teaching you like about finance and what investors are looking for. As I said, I'm a venture capitalist. Somebody else might be like a private credit investor. Somebody else might be doing like growth capital, marketing growth capital. It's a new non-dilutive type form of capital that might be very good for you, where actually you show someone like your marketing metrics and your acquisition, and then they can finance you like marketing, and then just they will be collecting money out of your Stripe gateway to repay the capital you paid them. So you say, you know, I know how to market my school. I'm making, you know, $1.3 for every $1 that I use for advertising. And they say, okay, that's great. Here's the money. So you have to educate yourselves about the different kind of financial options. And that leads to very, very different discussions with investors. And then, because, you know, this is not like the public markets, they're all about like actually very transactional on people. Then maybe you want to do some background checks on these people. Who are they? What type of deals they did before? Because, you know, if you just taking somebody's money and you have like a bad chemistry, it's as bad as a bad marriage. Of course, if numbers are great, then nobody cares. Nobody's gonna, you know, coming to your door. But then you don't know, you know, some people, you know, they're really fixated on like, you know, some of the metrics. Some they have their own vanities. Some they have pressure because their fund is shutting down or their career is going down because all the other investments did bad and they just rely on you to make dough. So you have to actually, you know, invest a lot in human relationships. Like it's not about like I think one of the problems right now in this disembodied world is that we don't know how to read people and their expectations. So maybe sometimes you don't have to read like Harvard Business Review. You kind of hate it. Like, maybe you have to read up some Brecht and some classics because, human psyche doesn't change, and, investors are nothing different, just also people. So you have to be able to read them.
Thanks, Panos, for this. And there is like an alternative definition of intelligence that is learning from other people's mistakes, not doing your own. You have a different definition, the opposite, that you prefer to do your own mistakes because that way you learn faster. So if we bring it to our audience here, and we have here creators, we have people who run training businesses and are selling online courses, or working in L&D functions in corporates, which is something that you've also been part of this environment. How could they apply this idea of learning fast through failing to advance their business, to build something lasting in this environment? Maybe an example that you could share. Everybody likes a spectacular failure, something that you could like a great learning.
No, I think I would use like a line from Nassim Taleb, which is one of my kind of heroes. So it's okay to be often wrong, but little wrong. But you want to be few times right, but when you're right, to be very, very right? So, if you launch like a new course, and you have to tweak the content all the time and it's not working, or the wording, it's fine. If you have created the right course for the right industry at the right time, all of these little mistakes are not gonna matter. If starting like a course about how people use typewriters, maybe there are a few that they just like the classic, but it's the wrong timing. So do mistakes often, but there's a bigger mistake that you want to avoid, which is to be relevant. So what I say to everybody, all the entrepreneurs, you're not going to die because of the competition. I've never seen like any early stage startup dying because of competition. You will die because of your relevancy, and that's the mistake you should not do. Of course, if you're very early in your careers, you don't have like, any debt or any kids to feed, it's okay. So try this, these catastrophic errors. They're not as catastrophic when you're very young. But when you're older, like you have to get the main theme right. Everything else, you're going to figure it out. Sometimes you think it's the end of the line, but it's very early on. Like you're losing some early customers. That's fine. I mean, we all lose like the first customers. That's almost given, unless we are very lucky.
You're supposed to. That's how it works.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. And people are going to be very forgiving of your mistakes when you're early. If you show that you care, if you give them back credits, or you give them, some money back, or you have a very quick turnaround, people are very forgiving of these mistakes. And another thing is that, not only you're going to make mistakes, but the people you hire as well. And you have to be somehow like supportive up to a point and let them do their own little mistakes. So many little mistakes are fine, but there can also be like a big catastrophic mistake that you need to avoid.
That's great piece of advice, a great nugget. Like we're approaching the end here. It's still extremely exciting for me. We have several hundreds of people here still with us after so many hours of talks. People are pumped up, and they have seen so many exciting things. They've learned so many things from our experts. If there's one thing that you could share with our audience, one piece of advice that they can take home, sleep on it, and tomorrow morning start fresh and keep that in mind, what would that nugget be?
I think it's the one we just mentioned, like by Nassim Taleb, not me, someone much smarter than me. It is okay to be often a little wrong, but it's very important to be a few times super correct. So don't be afraid of the daily mistakes. Just make sure you are working towards the right direction.
They don't matter. Thanks, Panos. I really loved our discussion and having you here with us. You really are bringing always something different in our talks, and I like to have our people get a step back and try to be a bit more strategic on their business, but also a bit more strategic on the very important business of working on themselves and working on their personas and working on the characteristics or the traits that will help them go to that long marathon, hence the name of the VC, because this entrepreneurship game, it's a marathon. Like putting it into running, you might deviate a bit, but you have to run towards constantly and towards the correct direction in order to be where you want to be at the end of the day. So thanks, Panos, for sharing your insights
Thank
with
you,
us.
Pano.
It was a pleasure having you here.
Likewise, and I'm looking forward to the school that's going to be even bigger than LearnWorlds.
We're looking forward to helping our customers create those and some creative distraction. Thanks, everyone. So,
thank you.
Elisa, I think we're going here to the end. Just 1 minute left. I see the clock ticking. I would like to thank you all for being here over these past few days. We have thousands of people who have shared with us all this experience of getting the knowledge from the great panels and talks that we have created, that we have enabled for you. We had creators, we had L&D practitioners. We've seen immense value exchange also in the chat, and people getting introduced and getting into communities and doing exchanging ideas and finding ways to work together. There are a few things that I'm just keeping us a very high level, some very high level takes, and obviously all this is a work in progress, and everything that we're learning here today, we'll try to keep getting back to you, structuring this knowledge and bringing this back to you. Just 3 takeaways from our speakers, some of the talks that we have processed over the last couple of days, that learning needs evidence. Learning without evidence will not work, and we are here to support you with that. Content without action doesn't engage, and on the contrary, the more commoditized the content becomes, the more superficial and the more irrelevant will become. So you have to be very relevant and very engaging. And also, education without impact doesn't last. It's not education, it's just content consumption. So here, the impact and the end result and the transformational result of every true learning experience is what really matters. And this is why LearnWorlds is here. This is why we're developing all this platform. This is why we're bringing in all these experts to help you shape your own trajectories and your own projects along these principles. It's also clear that AI is here, is all around us. It's in our platforms, in all the tools that we are using. It's also extremely important that communities are, I guess, our moat, are working, are bringing people together, they're keeping them connected despite all the AI bloat that might exist out there. And it's also a period of huge business model innovation with new business model and new ways of making money or exchanging value being created every day. So you have to keep an eye, and this is also what we are doing, learning from you, learning from the best, and sharing also with the community and disseminating this knowledge. At the end of the day, at the core of learning, the human quality remains, your authenticity, your creativity, your experimentation, your courage, finding your own ways, making your own numerous small mistakes, but getting the big things right, getting your own ingenuity, your own innovation, your own flavor, your own persona at the core of what you are building. And I think what we've discussed here in the last session with Panos validated what we were saying. So hopefully you will have some very practical and actionable takeaways from these worlds of learning, things that you can start putting into action tomorrow. Action matters. It's not just thinking about these things. So if you need to act on the side of your technology partner, the platform that can help you, empower you to implement, to actualize your dreams, we are here. We're here now. If you need us, we will be here later in an ever-evolving platform and with an ecosystem that we have created with our amazing speakers here that is here to enable you, empower you, and share all the trends that we are seeing, everything that we are learning out there, so that you can be up to date and always at the forefront of innovation. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to the entire LearnWorlds team for preparing all this. Elisa, you've done an amazing job our support employees have done an amazing job here. Andrea and everything else who worked for the content, all our presenters. This has been really a great experience, and I'm very thankful for all your work here and for sharing all this with our audience.
All right, thank you guys. I guess just a little disclaimer for me as well. We will be sharing the recordings and the slides, so keep an eye out on your inbox. All right. Bye-bye,
I think on Friday we'll be sharing everything, so you will have full access to all the recordings. Keep an eye on your inbox, and everything will be there for you to process and have access again. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye, everyone.